All right. There's this content creator that's been sort of kind of been a rising star lately. I remember she uploaded a video back in December, I believe, and I think it was like a video. I don't remember specifically what it was, but I do remember it being good. Like she knows her stuff, and apparently this video is about Snark credits and all about them and the people who love them. I could think of Hassan Parker, who loves Snark credits, particularly dedicated to our favorite Zionist IDF soldier. No, I'm just kidding, as I drop my phone, which is very interesting. Incredible stuff. But yeah, without further ado, this is a long watch, so let's just get right into it.
Ooh, okay. Does anyone remember Velma?
I spit truth without a filter, like every comedian before hashtag Me Too.
Ugh. For any of you who don't remember, Velma was an infamous adult animated show from 2023 that was one of those insufferable, dark, edgy reimaginings of beloved children's media. In this case, it dared to ask the question, what if It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia were written by people who didn't get the joke? And never having seen Velma, I can make that judgment because I've seen highlight reels. Velma being
Whoa, they race swap Velma. That's crazy.
For
Velma's too woke now.
X Minutes compilations did extremely well. Everyone wanted a front row seat to the cringe without having to suffer through the entire show. Has anyone ever wondered about the people who made those compilations, though? Like, people had to actually watch the show in order to make those compilations. Do you ever think about what it must have taken to sit through 10, 25-minute episodes that you weren't enjoying and knew you weren't going to enjoy? How much must these people have hated this show in order to be willing to subject themselves to that, just so they could make this show's lack of quality more widely known? And this was not just a few people. Velma was almost immediately renewed for a second season, and was apparently—
Well, I mean, there's always, I guess, like, some level of hate watching that people engage in. Like, I kind of do it on the channel as well, but the only difference is when I hate watch, I make content out of it, at the very least, so I am I have more of an excuse to hate watch than other people do. Some people just hate watch for the sake of hate watching, so I don't know, dude.
Apparently the most viewed premiere of an original animated show on HBO Max. Yes, I know that it probably
They probably thought it was too woke or something. They thought, oh my god, Velma's a black character. That means it's too woke. And all the shows are infected with the woke mind virus.
Gotten a second season regardless due to the sheer pedigree of its cast and crew, but I still think that hate-watching culture absolutely contributed to it going down in history as one of the worst animated shows of all time instead of just fading into obscurity. And, most importantly, it provided the best modern example of hate-watching. Hate-watching is the act of engaging with a piece of media for the purpose of deriving entertainment from how bad it is. Hate-watching is everywhere. It's, in my opinion, what's given And Just Like That and Emily in Paris multiple seasons. And it's not just for TV. Snark subreddits have had a huge boost in the past few years.
That, to me, is more weird. Like, I feel like... Like, I understand the point that she's making, but I almost don't know if hate watching and, like, a Snark Reddit is that I just don't agree with that fully. Because, like, Snark Reddits are, like, actually unemployed. Like, I mean, not that, like, hate watching isn't unemployed behavior, but, like, Snark Reddits, you, like, devolve yourself in a community of people online, just constantly posting on public forums about how much you hate a certain somebody, like Ethan Klein or Caleb Hammer or anybody, right? Saying, like, oh my god, like, this person is bad, this person is this way, and then you post on that Reddit and you're, like, an active contributor of it. I don't know, dude. It's a little bit, like, that to me is, like, almost weirdly parasocial. Whereas, like, if you hate watch something on your own time, like, I don't know, man. Like, if you're making content off of it, it's whatever. But if you hate watch something, I feel like that's a little bit different, because if you're not doing it publicly, I don't know, man. There's something about that just doesn't really seem comparable. But I do understand the point that Dollhouse is making here.
At the risk of sounding like a high school valedictorian, snark is defined by the Merriam-Webster dictionary as an attitude or expression of mocking irreverence or sarcasm. Snark subreddits are Reddit communities dedicated to hating either on a famous individual or a group of famous people, like New York and—
I really don't understand why Reddit allows snark Reddits. I genuinely feel like that, like, snark Reddits as a whole should be banned. Like, obviously, there's no to my knowledge, there's no doxing going on in these Snark Reddits. Otherwise, the subreddit would be banned, because that is actually against TOS. But it's everything that leads up to doxing. It's like all the harassment, it's all the fucking crazy shit. People are so unhinged on these Snark Reddits. Like, I really don't understand why Reddit doesn't just, like, do something about Snark Reddits. I really think we should. Because I'm pretty sure there was, like, a story of somebody who owned, like, a Save a Fox initiative or whatever, who killed herself because she had a Snark Reddit dedicated to her because she had autism. And it's so fucking cringe and lame that people do this shit. It's honestly disgusting.
Influencers, LA influencers, or fundamentalist Christian influencers. We'll get to them. For example, r/smallbeansnark is dedicated to criticism of famous scammer Caroline Calloway, where, as an article...
Damn. Small Bean Snark? Why'd she name herself Small Bean? Does, she have a small bean? I don't know how that's possible.
Puts it,
I suppose maybe she's trans?
Users, quote, meet up in real life, create crafts inspired by their snarking hobby, and, most importantly, spend hours upon hours updating each other on every aspect of Calloway's life. In my last video, I discussed the H3 Snark subreddit, hi guys, and its negative effects on the people it targets. For anyone who did not watch my last video, the H3 Show is a YouTube podcast that airs 3 to 4 hour episodes 3 days a week. Due to various factors, this podcast has attracted a very passionate anti-fandom and Snark subreddit, leading to a harassment campaign against the two hosts, Ethan and Ela Klein, as well as anyone associated with the podcast. This harassment campaign has led to, among other things, Child Protective Services being falsely called on the Kleins, and I say falsely because the Kleins have posted a letter to the internet from the Department of Children and Family Services saying that the call was unwarranted, and 2 human...
Yeah. That's, well, mainly, again, it stemmed from the fact that, like, basically, like, the Snark Reddits and, like, people in Hassan's audience, or anyone, like, people that were adjacent to Hassan, at the very least, were basically saying that, Ethan Klein's kids were rolling around in dog shit, and they were contracting Giardia and stuff. And, like, and also, like, you have to remember, first of all, if your kids actually do have Giardia, that's not a reason to call CPS on someone. Giardia is actually extremely common. Like, if you Google search how common Giardia is, you'll get results, like, many different results telling you Giardia is very common. So that on its own is not a valid reason to call CPS on someone. Secondly, the whole rolling around in shit thing applies such a malicious narrative to Ethan that was just, like, not even true at all. And, like, listen, in the past, I have, like, made a lot of criticisms towards Ethan Klein. I particularly didn't really like him during COVID. Just because, like, some of the things he did made me just, like, really not like him. Like, the whole, bragging about his, like, LA mansion and, like, being petty about it. I'm sort of used to his pettiness now at this point, because that's just kind of how Ethan is. But, in regards to, like, the actual CPS and 2 human skulls, as Dollhouse just brought up here, like, that made me like Ethan more, because that, like, that is unhinged shit. Like, that is, like, clearly massive line was crossed there.
Being sent to their workplace. Again, the Kleins posted proof. I first became aware of this situation in January of last year, and I've been observing it ever since. And what I want to know is, who the fuck has the time to spend 12 hours a week watching a podcast that you don't even like? Seriously, there are people who are fans of the H3 podcast who don't have time to watch every episode. I've seen Snarkers bitching about members episodes. They literally pay to watch the podcast they hate. You couldn't even pay me to watch a podcast I don't like, let alone...
Well, I'm pretty sure, didn't it get, like, I'm pretty sure Ethan was supposed to get, like, a subpoena on these Snark Reddits and, like, to reveal their identities, and I'm pretty sure there was somewhere, and I could be totally wrong on this, but I saw somewhere that, like, a majority of, like, the Snark Reddits, the people were, like... I don't remember how old they were. It was like, they were like in their 30s or 40s or something. Like, they were a bunch of like unemployed grown-ass people. And like that was like the average age of the people engaging in these Snark Reddits.
Get me to pay to watch it. Over the holiday break...
I guess if you're Cruel World Happy Mind as well. Because Cruel World Happy Mind is like a year or 2 older than I am. No, she's 2 years older than me. And she made, like, a dog shit hit piece on Ethan Klein. I never reacted to it on the channel. I probably should have, let's be real, because it was actually, like, such an abysmal hit piece. And she cited the Snark Reddit a couple times.
H3 employees Lena and Abdullah Ayad went on a road trip back to their hometown of Dearborn, Michigan, and decided to stream the entire time. The stream added up to over 4 days worth of content. Snarkers watched this live stream. They spent 4 days watching the live stream of employees of the podcast that they hate for the sole purpose of picking apart their behavior, eventually accusing them of animal abuse because their puppy snapped at one of them at one point, which, as we all know, is something that no healthy puppy has ever done to one of their owners, because puppies are famously very well behaved.
Ah, yes, we know that, yeah. Bro, I don't know, man. These spheres are so weird because, like, a lot of these Snark Reddits are very adjacent to Hassan. And so, like, the bar for... The margin of error is so low. Like, they see a dog barking, which is very normal for a dog, and suddenly that's enough for them to go, like, oh my god, AB is like an animal abuser. Like, okay... Alright, I don't know, dude. Like, your fucking goat Hassan shocked a dog and keeps his dog in, like, a singular place for the entire time, and you guys tried to sweep for him and lie about it, and he also yanked on the dog's tail. Like, I don't know. Like, what do you want me to say? Like, obviously, there are worse people than Hassan, but, like, he also, like, he is far more, like, a million times worse than AB is.
When Klein posted content nuke Hassan Piker last winter...
Excuse you, Dollhouse, it's Parker.
There were so many posts in the H3 Snark subreddit saying something along the lines of, oh, I want to watch, but I don't want to give Klein the views. And my question is, why? Why did you want to watch the video if you didn't think it was going to have any substantive criticism? Like, I'm not even saying this for Klein's sake. I'm saying this for all of yours. Go to the park, spend time with your family, learn a new language, read a book, write a short story, paint a picture, like, learn an instrument. I can literally think of hundreds of better ways for you to spend your time than watching Ethan Klein's videos.
Well, again, a lot of these people are very unemployed. And listen, I'm unemployed too. I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to get a job. Like, it do be kind of tough out here these days. So, I'm doing my best. But, yeah, no, this, it's fucking crazy. Like, a lot of these people are very unemployed, but they're unemployed in a different way. They don't use that energy of being unemployed to try to, like, do a YouTube video or, like, to try to engage in, like, being productive, right? Being a little more productive about their life circumstances. Instead, they are so frustrated with the world, and I guess they're so frustrated with Ethan Klein as a whole. And, I don't know, maybe Ethan Klein did something they don't like. That's fine, you don't have to like Ethan Klein, but instead of being productive about it, they decide to spend all that energy by attaching themselves in Snark communities. It's very terminally online behavior.
I got a lot of flack in the comments of my last video for having a running joke about how much I dislike Hassan Piker, and some of you might now be thinking to yourselves, wow, you're lecturing all of us about parasocial hatred when you parasocially hate Hassan Piker?
Well, I don't think it's parasocial. You just, like, you didn't like Hassan Parker, and that's it. Like, I don't like Hassan either. I don't think Hassan is a good person. I haven't really criticized him as much as I normally do. Listen, back in October, I, like, fucking rode the shot color wave. Like, I made video after video. I was milking the shit out of the Colorgate drama. I'm not gonna lie. I made, like, 4 videos on it. Probably not as much as Pegasus. Pegasus, like, you think I milk drama. You haven't seen Pegasus' channel. He fucking milked the absolute living shit of it. Probably, like, tenfold to compare to me. I don't know, like, I was I think that's around the time I started criticizing Asmongold more, because Asmongold is, like, very much worthy of criticism, way more so. Like, Asmongold constantly adjacent with rapist pedophiles, constantly downplays Trump being on the Epstein list, downplays him being a pedophile and being a rapist. He's still friends with Tectone, and he claims that, like, I know more behind the scenes. But, like, if he knew more behind the scenes, he would understand that Tectone, who was held liable in a civil court for stalking and raping his ex-girlfriend, had his guns taken away for 10 years, has a 10-year protective order on him from his ex-girlfriend. Pretty credible allegations of sexual assault that Asmongold seems to be an apologist for. So, yeah, I mean, like, right now, like, I think Asmongold is just a worse person, and he deserves to be called out more.
Interesting. I'm very intelligent. The crucial difference between me and the average snarker is that I have never seen a Hassan Piker stream and have no desire to. Simple as that. And before you say, well, how can you hate him if you've never even seen one of his streams?
If you have these millionaire, billionaire wasp fails...
Well, clearly, by Dollhouse's own logic, she would have had to watch a Hassan stream or something to actually see what he's saying.
Sons, at least taking them out of other colleges so they can only do date rape to other billionaire, millionaire failed daughters is like, in some respects, you know, from a utilitarian perspective, of course.
Bro, I swear to God, every time I watch a clip of Hassan, he's always, like, trying to shoehorn in, like, big terms. I don't even know if Hassan knows what these big terms mean himself. He just uses a bunch of big boy words to try to, like, be pseudo-intellectual with what he's talking about.
A little bit better, you know what I mean? Like,
It's very performative.
like taking these guys and putting them in a pen with one another is ultimately getting them away from the broader society.
I've seen enough. In this video, I want to talk about Snark subreddits, the people who use them, and the effects that this practice can have on our psyches. In case you didn't see my last video, I made a lot of people from a certain Snark subreddit very upset, and I just need to let you all know that I don't regret a single thing I said in that video.
Well, that's tough for them, I guess. Dude, I don't know what it is. Like, I can relate to this hard, Dollhouse, and I know Dollhouse is just starting out as a content creator, so, you know, totally understandable that she's, like, sort of addressing it in this video. But, my personal advice, Dollhouse, is, like, yeah, you're free to talk about it in this video, but I probably wouldn't address them too much, just because, like, at the end of the day, they're gonna forget about your video, like, within a couple of days, so it's, like, not even worth putting energy into. Like, a lot of these people, like, are just, like, not, like, I don't know. They're, like, one thing you have to do as a content creator is understand what criticism to take and what criticism not to take. And, like, that's a skill you're just gonna have to develop over time the more you do this. But, like, recently, like, I'll give a lot of examples. I first started noticing this when I uploaded a video on Burnt Peanut and Hassan. There was, like, some very huge nothing burger drama of, like, Burnt Peanut being, like, proud of his country, and then Hassan basically saying Burnt Peanut is, like, a fucking, like, Israel or whatever. I don't know, like, what he's saying or something. He said something very stupid. I don't remember specifically because it was so stupid. But, like, a ton of people were getting fucking mad in my comment section. I think I pissed off a bunch of right-wingers. Then it was, like, another Asmongold video I made that pissed off a lot of Asmongold fans. Then there was the Dude, the fucking Tectone video. Don't even get me started. The Tectone video absolutely fucking, Bro, that pissed off so many fucking people. Like, that video got, like, tons and tons of dislikes and comments saying that, like, oh my god, you're so comfortable falsely accusing him of being a rapist or whatever. And I'm like, okay, it's in the fucking court documents. Like, it's literally, like, in the civil case, Tectone was held liable for raping and stalking his ex-girlfriend. There was enough grounds to file for, and then people were like, oh, but the fucking burden of proof for a civil case is a joke. Okay, by your own logic, do civil cases just not matter? Like, what the fuck are you, like, so many fucking more. I'm sorry, but if you still defend Tectone after the civil case, you're actually, I'm just gonna assume you're a stupid person. Like, genuinely, you're an incredibly low IQ person that probably just has a victim complex, and that just, like, Tectone seems to overvalidate that victim complex. Like, I genuinely don't understand people that watch Tectone. Like, he is actually, like, such an idiot. And I don't understand it at all. Like, there's nothing interesting about him. And also, he is a fucking, like, weird, like, again, he is an actual rapist. Like, he was held liable for it in a civil court. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, if you watch Think Before You Sleep's video, you would understand Think Before You Sleep made a dog shit video on it. And, like, I got tons of hate for that video. But I know I'm right. Like, it doesn't, like, just because a majority of people are like, I know somebody in the comments was like, oh, yeah, but, like, you know, look at all the comments, dude. Like, everybody's saying you're wrong. No, it's just a bunch of Tectone fans that got triggered because I didn't agree with them. That's it. Which is very ironic because a lot of right-wingers will be like, oh my god, lefties getting triggered over somebody having a different opinion. They use the same argument. You guys use the same fucking argument with us. So, like, again, the moment I say something you don't agree with, suddenly you're like, oh my god, you're like a horrible person or whatever. Or like, okay. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, look in the mirror. Like, you can be a rapist pedophile and exist in right-wing spaces. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, that's just where we're at right now.
You can't hurt my feelings. I'm on too many antidepressants. I try to approach all of my content ideologically. I don't want to just say, snarkers engage in this kind of behavior because they're evil. And there's simply nothing that can be done to stop it. So they just need to be put down. Like rabid dogs.
Whoa.
Even regarding my sheer confusion over why someone would watch a podcast or follow an influencer that they don't like, I have to assume that there's a deeper reason beyond just it's never occurred to them to unfollow. So, I'm gonna try and discuss why I believe that people engage in snark for anyone who might not understand. And then I'm gonna try to explain why I believe that this behavior does more harm than good. And, if you yourself are a snarker, maybe you'll see some of yourself in my analysis.
Hell yeah. It would be a great analysis for them more than anything. They need it, but they probably won't listen.
While I was writing the script for this video, I was reading a lot of articles about people who either once had participated or still were participating in Snark. And while those articles did provide a lot of really good insight, I still had a lot of questions. So I reached out to my subscribers and asked them to email me if they'd ever participated in a Snark so I could ask them some questions. You'll be hearing from them throughout this video.
Well, that's interesting, I guess. I don't really think I've heard, I don't know, I've never really heard a content creator, I guess, do, like, I guess I used to, maybe back in, like, the early, like, golden age of YouTube in, like, the 2010s of people using emails to, like, reply to people. I don't know, man. It's just, like, I don't know. You could tell that Dollhouse is very old school in the way she does stuff. Like, I am, I don't know. I weirdly respect it.
I need to establish some things. I'm not just talking about parasocial hatred. That's something in which we all participate to a certain degree, and it's very easy to see why. We hate people we don't know because they're doing something harmful, or because they're annoying, or because they're doing something harmful and they're annoying. I could not in good conscience have an entire running joke in my last video about how much I hate Hassan Piker only to turn around and act like all parasocial hatred is completely unfounded. What I want to talk about is obsessive parasocial hatred. What is the difference between casually hating a celebrity and hating a celebrity so much that you will choose to devote your time and energy to engaging with that person's content with the sole purpose of picking it apart?
Well, I mean, again, like I said, if you're doing it for content, that's one thing, because at least you're getting something out of it. Like, at the end of the day, you're probably going to try to, like, monetize it and do whatever. I would inevitably like to get this channel monetized at some point down the line. But with, I don't know, like, other than that, like, I tend not to do that. I guess the only reason I watch other people in that way off recording is to see if I can make content off of it. Other than that, it's, like, kind of just whatever. I mean, I do love drama. Part of it is that, but also it's just like, whatever.
I was writing this script, I kept 3 questions in mind. 1, why do people obsessively parasocially hate? Number 2, why do people engage with things that they find upsetting? And number 3, who benefits? These are questions I want us all to keep in mind as we watch this video. Now, I will be the first to acknowledge that I can be a little long-winded and that I can go on a tangent or two, so I will be revisiting these questions at the end of each section. And actually, I already have a pretty good idea of the answer to that 3rd question. While I was researching for this video, I read Jon Ronson's So You've Been Publicly Shamed. It wasn't quite relevant to my video. Ronson's book deals more so with ordinary citizens who were shamed for one transgression as opposed to celebrities with detailed hate communities cataloging years of perceived transgressions. However, Ronson made one point that really resonated with me, which, if my calculations were true, means Google made $120,000 from the destruction of this person. Or maybe Google made more. But one thing's certain, those of us who did the actual annihilating, we got nothing. We were unpaid interns for Google. And it really put things into perspective for me. Snark subreddits get recommended a lot, sometimes even instead of general fan subreddits. Even when I got recommended a general fan subreddit, it was a negative post, and I kind of laughed and texted my friend about it at the time, being like, oh, how does Reddit know me so well? But in retrospect, is that not a little bit weird? So, next time you see something on Reddit that really makes your heartbeat race or your jaw clench, just ask yourself, how much money is Reddit making off of sucking me into a vortex of self-righteous but ultimately impotent rage?
Well, I mean, again, I just look at Snark Reddits and I go, oh, it's a Snark Reddit. Most of what people say on Snark Reddits are usually not true. Like, they buy into, like, a bunch of talking points that are usually based off of some level of lies, particularly H3 Snark communities. Like, they have to constantly lie about Ethan, saying that, again, the CPS thing was a massive lie. And same for the, like, Hassan, like, snarking after Ethan. Like, Hassan has, like, a massive, massive history of lying constantly. So he's not a reliable narrator on anything. Like, one thing about Ethan Klein that I particularly enjoy about him is that, yes, he is very petty, but also, he's not a liar. Like, I don't think there is a time where Ethan is, like, intentionally being, like, very disingenuous about anything, like, at all. So
in my last video, I featured a post of someone from the H3 Snark subreddit wearing one of George Ganitis' CPS shirts.
Whoa, George Janitis? Sounds like a fucking STD. I'm pretty sure Ethan's already made that joke. It really does sound like an STD.
Caption read,
It's the fucking bad empanada.
I will cherish this when I'm in a nursing home reminiscing on the golden days of bullying Ethan Klein on the internet. And the first time
That is crazy. Wow. The golden days of bullying Ethan Klein on the internet.
I read that, I was like, you know what? I believe them. I believe that they're going to be cherishing the memories of bullying Ethan Klein on the internet when they're old. Because I don't think that they're going to have any memories with their loved ones that they'll be able to cherish. And, like, I get that they were probably joking, but jokes can sometimes reveal truth. I think that hatred and disillusionment can feel very lonely. I'll give you a personal example. About 2 years ago, I became a fan of this commentary creator who I will not be naming because, believe it or not, I actually do not enjoy starting feuds with random YouTubers.
Damn.
So we
Fuck it, dude. I'd say name drop the fuck out of him. Fuck it, no balls.
will be calling them Person A. Like
Alright.
I said, I was a casual fan
Guys, what do you think? What do you think? Which commentator are they?
of
It's
Person
Nicholas DiOrio.
A at first, but eventually I found myself starting to get annoyed with them.
Damn. She got annoyed with them because Nicholas DiOrio was with Mika's Rhetoric and Frogan. He's Nicholas DiOrio was like, yeah, I'm into some of the women of my own size. Unfortunately, Dollhouse I don't think fits that criteria. And Nicholas DiOrio listen, Dollhouse, don't take it personally because Nicholas DiOrio is just a bit. He could be a little bit weird with his interests. Surely.
It felt like some of their videos were just very mean, and as I kept watching them, I couldn't help but notice that they were approaching their content in a very unempathetic and intellectually lazy way that often caused their points to lack nuance. So eventually, I just kind of shrugged and unsubscribed. But then, a couple weeks later, my friend texted me talking about how annoying they thought that a certain video Person A had just put out was, and I was like, oh my god, you don't like Person A? I don't like Person A. And the two of us had a grand old time bitching about how much we didn't like their videos for about 10 minutes.
Well, I mean, you got overvalidated. That's what happened, Dollhouse. You got overvalidated, or actually, no. Should I say overvalidated? No, you got heavily validated in your, or I guess a confirmation bias would be a better term. Yeah, I mean, like you didn't like them, and you're like, oh my god, you didn't like them, so that means I was right. That's basically what happened there.
And then we never
Yeah, confirmation bias is the right word, yeah, or term.
spoke of the topic again. And the excitement that one feels when they find a fellow hater isn't just reserved for people. A couple weeks ago, I stumbled across a forum post about a person talking about how they didn't like the way that the musical The Outsiders had adapted the book. And so many people in the comments...
Bro, The Outsiders is such a goated book, honestly. I would say the movie did a pretty good job adapting the book. Obviously, when you adapt a book into a film, you have to cut some stuff and make some changes, which The Outsiders, it's no different. There was some stuff cut. Would I have liked to see it be more accurate to the book? Yes, but also, I think it does a very solid job of translating it into, a screenplay.
We're like, Jesus Christ, thank you. I've never liked this musical. I think the excitement came both from a desire to connect and over Person A and The Outsiders musical's relative obscurity. There's an entire wiki devoted to picking apart Twilight, and there are many, many people in the world who can give you a very detailed list of reasons about why exactly they don't like Blake Lively or Kim Kardashian, but like I said, participation in this particular commentary sphere gives one a general air of unproblematicness. And that adds a certain level of intrigue to anyone who criticizes them. One of the people I spoke to agreed with me. When I asked them what had attracted them to Snark, their answer was, to be honest, the sense of community you gain from a smaller understanding of a niche topic. Although I do need to point out that I also get excited when I find out that someone's a fan of a thing that I like, so my excitement can't only be chalked up to being able to connect over hatred. But I do think that shit-talking is a bonding experience.
I mean, yeah, it certainly can be. I feel like if it's between two friends, it's fine. But it can also be a productive conversation. Like, I shit talk with friends sometimes about drama. You know, I say, yeah, like, this person is like, this drama creator is kind of, like, really bad or whatever. But there are, like, I'd like to think that there are, like, valid reasons as to why you would think that, as long as the discussion is productive and it isn't just, like, oh my god, like... And also, you don't spend all the time doing it, right? These snarkers spend, like, all the fucking time constantly lying about people, and then, like, constantly, like, trying to, like, spread a bunch of, like, misinformation, or disinformation even, I would go as far as to say, and then, like, fucking, of course, the CPS call on Ethan Klein as well. And Denham's chat, like, basically saying, hey, we need to call CPS, like, CPS, please call CPS.
Disliking someone can make you feel mean, and when you meet another person who also dislikes that person for the same reason, it's confirmation that your problem with that person is a problem with them and not a problem with you. But if we look at my previous personal example, you will notice that I said that we talked about person A once, and then never again. Our hatred of person A is not the bedrock upon which our friendship is founded. And I acknowledge that it's easy for me to say that because neither I nor my friend were ever that big of a fan of person A, so our disillusionment with them wasn't really that big of a deal. Still, I can't even imagine how—
Again, like, I think hating on, like, a content creator or hating on somebody just, like, casually as, like, a friend, like, I don't think that's the same thing as, like, basically engaging in a Snark Reddit, which is, like, again, like, engaging in a Snark Reddit takes some level of dedication. You have to go out of your way to view the Snark Reddit. You have to go out of your way to hate watch the person, not even reacting to it for content. And you have to go out of your way to make a post, write the title, write the fucking, like, I guess, like, details or, like, the description on said Reddit post, and then you post it, and then you interact. Not to mention, a lot of these people interact and comment on all these other posts made on said Snark Reddit. That's a lot of dedication. That's a lot of time consumption. And I don't know. I cannot think of a worst way to spend your time. Genuinely. I can't.
How miserable my relationship with my friend would be if literally the only thing that we had to talk about was our hatred of person A. But if this were my only friend, and if this were the only thing that we had in common, I might be willing to keep revisiting that topic just so that we'd be able to bond over something. I might even be willing to continue watching Person A's videos just so that we'd have more stuff to talk about. The person I spoke to had something similar to say. They were actually an ex-mod of Trishyland, Trisha Paytas's Snark subreddit, which eventually got so toxic that it had to be taken down. Although they insist that most of the evil actually took place on Discord, not Reddit. They shared—
Oh wow, yeah, that makes it so much better. Just that adjacent behavior happening on Discord from that Reddit. Yeah, that makes it so much better. Totally.
With me. Our Discord had channels for regular talk, venting about boyfriends, showcasing our pets, etc. This is what eased me in every day. I'd log in, see how the girlies are doing, then roll my eyes at the latest Trisha update. We had group calls where we talked about ex-boyfriends, debt, life trauma, and somehow we're all able to laugh about comparing it to Trisha's life. It was a fucked up sense of community. So when you look at it through that lens, it actually makes perfect sense why that H3 Snark user would want to spend money on H3 Snark merch the same way that I would want to spend money on a Fleetwood Mac t-shirt. This is their community. Like I said, hatred and disillusionment are lonely feelings, and finding people who feel the same way that you do can feel really, really uplifting. And
well, they do say that there is a thin line between love and hate. Maybe, I guess it's similar. It's a similar concept to horseshoe theory, where the left and the right are really not so different. I wouldn't really say that right now. I would say that the left is, like, more, like, right now they're more correct, because, the fucking administration is ran by, pedophile rapists, or people that want to be apologists for pedophile rapists. But, yeah, I would say, there's probably some level of truth in horseshoe theory, under normal circumstances, we'll say.
And if you used to be a fan of that person or thing, finding fellow Fallen fans can provide the same sense of community that was lost when you stopped being a fan of that thing. So, why do people obsessively parasocially hate, and why do they engage with stuff that they find upsetting? Because it makes them feel less lonely. Who benefits? Well, superficially, the snarkers do. In the same way that a smoker technically benefits from smoking cigarettes because the nicotine makes them feel good for a few minutes. Look, at least some parasociality is kind of inevitable. I mean, I've got people I'm parasocially attached to. This is pretty laughably apparent in my last video. Take a wild guess who my favorite commentary creator is. You'll never be able to tell. However, I've also taken great pains to manage that. Yes, I enjoy Eddie Burbach's content, but I openly acknowledge that I do not know him and that he could be completely different in real life. When I gaze upon the—
Yeah, I mean, I try not to open the door for parasocial relationships. Like, I know I'm a small creator currently, but, like, if I ever do grow the Iconismus channel, I don't ever want to, like, you know, I don't ever want to create, like, obviously the friends that I have from the Iconismus channel, I have a few of them from Papa Guts community and Alex the Fictions community, but that's about it. I don't particularly open up many opportunities for friendships unless I, like, really trust the people that I'm involved with. And so, like, I don't really... I just don't think it's worth opening yourself up to that. Like, I get DMs on TikTok from people that are interested in my content. I don't always respond to everybody because I don't want to open the door to create that, like, level. I know somebody, not that long ago, a couple of months ago, offered to be like, hey, can I tell you my, like, story of what happened? I think it was somebody who saw my past allegations and he DM'd me saying, oh, hey, you know, I'm sorry you went through that and everything. I went through something similar, and he's like, can I share a story? And then I didn't respond because it's like, I mean, like, listen, I appreciate that you were nice about my past allegations. Like, I appreciate it. But at the same time, like, I'm not your therapist. Like, it's not appropriate for me to be, like, responding and then being like, oh yeah, no, sure, you can totally do it. It's like, I'm sorry, like, you showed a nice gesture, but that doesn't mean I owe you anything as a content creator. Like, again, you don't know me as a person, and I don't know you, and I don't really see that as, like, a necessary thing to do. So I kind of just, like, I kind of left it on read on purpose, because I'm just like, yeah, I'm not really, like, that's my way of basically telling that person, yeah, I don't think that I'm interested in talking about it.
Snark subreddits, oftentimes I don't find mindless trolls.
I probably shouldn't respond to DMs too often on TikTok, especially if I do get bigger. I probably should avoid that habit.
Based on the obsessive, fan-like engagement with their subjects, and based on the testimonies of a lot of snarkers, many in these subreddits actually used to be fans. The H3 community even has a name for this phenomenon, fallen fanitis, and I'm going to have to borrow that phrase for the purpose of brevity. I've had people that I was a fan of disappoint me. In my last video, I told you about my Duncan Kastner story when I was talking about the rise of the so-called commentary mindset and how I felt that it promotes black and white thinking. Looking back, I think the reason why I reacted so badly to Kastner's drama with Johnson was because in my head, I had this idea that the people who would get called out by commentary creators, like Tana Mojo or Jake Paul, were inherently bad, and that Danny Gonzalez, Drew Gooden, and anyone who borrowed their aesthetic was inherently good. And that drama forced me to take a step back and reassess the way that I was engaging with content. I had to realize that just because someone presents themselves as a moral authority doesn't mean that they actually are one, and that looking like you care about something and actually caring are two very different things. God. But not everyone has that realization. They develop these extremely personal relationships with content creators. So when that content creator does something to disappoint them, they take it incredibly personally. There's
levels to it, right? Like, obviously, if you're extremely parasocial for the person... I don't remember what video it was specifically, but I think it was an Internet Versus video where he read, like, a Snark post... Basically, oh, no, it was, sorry, I remember. It was the North Star Radio hit piece video that I reacted to recently on Ethan Klein about the Iran war. And he cited a Snark Reddit post about a fallen Ethan Klein fan, and then apparently the Iran stuff was like a tipping point for them not being a fan anymore. And essentially they were just saying, like, yeah, no, like, you know, I had to defend Ethan Klein constantly. I even lost a relationship in my personal life, and I lost other people in my life defending Ethan Klein. But, like, now it's like, first of all, they went out of their way to make a snark post on him, and then they had to make it known that they unsubscribed and that they felt so disappointed. I don't know, like, that was a person to me that struck me as, like, you need more, like, real-life friends. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, if it's one thing if you don't like someone's content anymore, but then you just decide, oh, yeah, no, I'm making a snark. Not only do I have to unsubscribe to him, but I have to make that known to everybody, and I have to make everybody privy to the fact that I don't like this person anymore, and I post about it on a snark Reddit. That's fucking crazy. Get some real-life friends. Like, there's levels and degrees to it.
Probably a person watching this video right now who was a really big fan of my last video, but who is growing increasingly disappointed in me the longer I keep talking. And that person could probably create a way longer list of reasons why I suck than the average H3 snarker who just kind of came in, left a negative comment, and then dipped. And it makes sense. After all the time, energy, and in many cases, money that people spend supporting their favorite creators, it's very easy to feel like one's life has been wasted. Hatred can feel more productive than apathy. One can derive entertainment out of hatred. Wilhelm Steckel said, the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. But if you've...
I don't know if that's really true. I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, obviously the opposite of love is hate. That would be like me saying that, like, the opposite of, like, super hot fire is room temperature. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're taking, like, the opposite of one extreme end of the spectrum would be the other end of the extreme end of the spectrum. I just don't really understand how that makes any sense.
Loved someone for a really long time. Becoming indifferent to them is harder than it sounds. I think this is best exemplified by the Timothy Chalamet snark community. Hi, editing me here. So, I wrote this part of the script in January when no one except Timothy Chalamet's haters really disliked him. And since then, Chalamet has just been marathoning, making himself look like a total douchebag.
How so? Oh, great. Did he get outed for talking to kids? Like, god fucking damn it.
I'm gonna keep in this part of the script because I think my point still stands and my analysis is good, but I just need to make a disclaimer that there is a very big difference between passively disliking a celebrity because they said something shitty and obsessively hating a celebrity because they quote-unquote betrayed you. As a huge opera fan,
well, I don't know, like, again, it is a bit of a weird insinuation to go, oh, this content creator betrayed me, but, like, I don't know, you don't really know the person, so it's not really betrayal if there wasn't really that big of a relationship other than a parasocial one that was already established.
I completely understand and agree with the criticisms that have been made of Chalamet and what he said. I'm not talking about you guys. Frankly, I'm not Chalamet's biggest fan right now. Like, could you not have waited to say this until my video was out, dude? Jesus Christ, kids, you want to hop on a plane to Japan and film a dead body while you're at it? Any secret love children you feel like the public should know about? You want to star in another Woody Allen movie since you're apparently so goddamn dedicated to making me look like a fool? Timothy Chalamet? If that is your real name? Anyway, back to the video. Since his breakout role in 2017's Call Me By Your Name, Chalamet's talent and good looks have landed him a massive, and sometimes obsessive, female fanbase. But in September of 2023, Chalamet and Kylie Jenner went public about their romantic relationship. And on September 7th of 2023, r/Timothy Chalamet Snark was born, with r/the Chaladashian following on July 29th of 2025. The subreddits are mostly dedicated to picking apart Chalamet's relationship with Jenner, insisting that she's, at best, ruining his career, and at worst, sucking away his youth and beauty like some sort of vampire. No, really. Jenner gets blamed for everything he does that fans don't like, be it smoking or cutting his hair.
Whoa. I mean, honestly, like, it's your life. Who cares? I mean, like, again, I understand, like, not liking a celebrity or disliking them or even hating them, even hate watching them, but it's, like, even, like, you hate them so much by, like, even the smallest things they do, you feel the need to, like, make sure that everybody knows about it. That's the part where it becomes way too fucking deep. For you, mainly, not for anyone else.
But why? Chalamet and Jenner have both been in high-profile relationships before. Why was this one any different? Well, Chalamet was seen as different. His roles in highbrow movies like Lady Bird and Call Me By Your Name had given him a certain amount of prestige. His fangirls saw him as intelligent, artistic, sensitive. Meanwhile, Jenner is, to many women, a villain. Her scandals, her perceived lack of talent, and her lack of transparency around her plastic surgeries make her seem the quintessential mean girl. Beautiful, but with no real substance. Surely,
Hey, I guess maybe it was clavicular before he was ahead of his time. Wow, look at that.
man like Timothy Chalamet wouldn't have been caught dead with a woman like Kylie Jenner. So, when Chalamet and Jenner's relationship went public, many in Chalamet's fanbase felt betrayed. It's worth noting that when a sought-after famous man is in a relationship, his partner will inevitably receive backlash for not being good enough for him and for stealing him from his fangirls. With Jenner, the wound was exacerbated by just how infamous she was. Here was a man women had decided was approachable, who they'd thought would see beyond physical beauty.
You can never win with these people. Because then, like, if you wind up getting with the fangirls anyways, then they'll come out years later and say, like, oh, he abused a power dynamic because he was dating a fucking fangirl or whatever, even though that shit happens, like, all the fucking time. There's, like, really no winning with some of these people sometimes. Like, they're gonna just, like, they're gonna inevitably hate you regardless of what you do, and you kind of just, like, it sort of just, like, comes with the territory of being famous.
Only for him to start dating, literally, the most conventionally attractive woman alive. He was supposed to be.
That's debatable. I don't know. I feel like that's subjective. Like, I guess conventionally attractive, I guess, if you want to talk about that. Personally, I don't particularly find her that hot, but that's just personal preference. That doesn't mean that I think that she's like, oh, you're ugly or whatever, or I, like, want to be an incel about it. Like, no. That's just, like, my personal preference. I'm like, I don't find her that attractive. But that's really it. That's kind of where my commentary on it ends. It's just personal preference.
Be better than this. I mean, it's not like he could have been dating her for her personality or anything. And his Snark subreddit reflects that mindset.
Well, I mean, there are two different fucking famous people that decided to date.
The Timothy Chalamet Snark subreddit is a bit of a misnomer. It's really a subreddit to hate on Jenner and her corrupting influence on that sweet, innocent, helpless 30-year-old man. Despite their participation in this snark, it's clear that users still want to believe the best of Chalamet and want to be able to blame his perceived straying from the path of righteousness on Jenner and her feminine wiles. Funnily enough, actor Jacob Elordi, who enjoys similar status as a generational heartthrob, has been in an on-again, off-again relationship with Olivia Giannulli since 2021, which has not been met with any significant negativity. Giannulli is an influencer who became infamous in 2019 when it was revealed that her parents had participated in the college admissions scandal in order to secure Giannulli's place at the University of Southern California. Anyone who has ever gone through the rat race of college admissions was understandably irate that Giannulli's privilege, rather than her academic or athletic merits, had gotten her the spot, and so Giannulli...
I mean, ultimately, it's really going to come down to, like, if you have the money to do it, really. Like, a lot of these things, like, at the end of the day, it's very similar to, like, college, like, in many universities, where it's a business and they kind of look for money at the end of the day, so that more than likely plays a factor into it.
Has been a hated figure ever since. Yet, Elordi's relationship with Giannulli remains largely uncontroversial. Sure, they make the occasional appearance in r/NYC influencer Snark, but as of the time I'm writing this, Elordi doesn't even have his own Snark page. And I think the reasons for this are complex. According to my pop culture consultant, Olivia Jade's social media presence is very soft girl grandma, Pilates and sweaters, as opposed to Kylie, who is seen as trashy. Olivia's worst sin these days is that she seems very boring. But she also agreed with me that Elordi's reputation has a lot to do with it. As she says, I think everyone agrees that Jacob Elordi is handsome in a way where he is probably the worst. Sorry, Jacob. At 6'5" and 190 pounds, Elordi is classically handsome and physically imposing in a way that makes him feel less approachable and more unattainable, while Chalamet's borderline androgynous good looks and perceived physical fragility make it easy to project a more thoughtful and receptive personality onto him. Elordi is the football-playing hunk, but Chalamet is the guy you'd meet in your acting class. Elordi's career also didn't start from as reputable a place as Chalamet's. Elordi's first major acting role was in Netflix's Kissing Booth trilogy, which is infamously not very good.
Damn. What makes it bad? Is it all the cheesy acting? Is it something you'd see out of Twilight?
He then played, as my consultant put it, a psychopath on the worst TV show of all time, before slowly working his way into increasingly larger roles in better projects.
Whoa, he could probably pull off like a really young Dexter. I don't know. Obviously, no one's gonna beat Michael C. Hall. Michael C. Hall does Dexter best, but like, I don't know. I think if they should have casted this guy in fucking, whatchamacallit? Is it Dexter New Blood or something? Is that what it's called? Or Dexter something? I don't know. I forget what the prequel show is called. It got canceled.
Like Saltburn, Priscilla, and Frankenstein, the last of which even earned him an Oscar nomination. Elordi's rise from flash-in-the-pan hunk to prestige actor was a slow one. While Chalamet's first major role as Elio Perlman in Call Me By Your Name earned him a nomination for the Academy Award for Best Actor at the age of only 22. And at the age of only 30, he's the youngest actor to be nominated 3 times for the award, since Marlon Brando in 1954. Simply put, Chalamet's been placed on a higher pedestal, so he has further to fall. Honestly, I kind of wonder if Elordi's recent critical acclaim, his Oscar nomination, and his starring role in might lead his relationship with Giannulli to gain even more scrutiny. I guess only time will tell. So, why do people obsessively parasocially hate, and why do they engage with content that upsets them? Because they once obsessively parasocially loved, and once a celebrity betrays them, they don't know how to disengage.
The fucking betrayal again. That word is doing a lot of heavy lifting here.
Who benefits? Well, I don't know. But I can almost certainly tell you that Kylie Jenner and Timothée Chalamet do not know or care about what's being said about them on Reddit.
Well, Ethan Klein does, and truthfully, that's part of the criticism, is that, like, you could definitely criticize Ethan for caring too much about what Snarkers think, because I feel like if you give them attention and constantly respond to Snarkers, like, it's kind of in Ethan's nature because he's very petty. But also, like, I think it just gets to a point where it's like, you know, how much more can you say? If it didn't work the previous, like, 15 times responding to it, how do you expect it to work the 16th time? You know what I'm saying?
I keep coming back to this subject for some reason. It would be impossible for me to discuss the proliferation of snark without discussing how certain commentary YouTubers have contributed to normalizing using these snarks. As a
well, yeah, Cruel World Happy Mind mainly was citing the snark Reddits against Ethan Klein mainly. And I guess Hassan Parker as well, he's another one that, like, really, was, like, very adjacent to it, especially on the Leftovers H3 subreddit.
Matter of fact, I've noticed that a lot of commentary/drama YouTubers openly source from and shout out these snarks.
And we love the Snark subreddits here, and we respect their rules. Yes, we do.
And before we get
The fucking Swoop. Didn't Swoop do, like, a video on this, like... I remember seeing a video Swoop did a long time ago, back in 2025. I forget what it was, but I didn't even know... Wow. That's crazy.
Get into this video, I want to give a huge shout out to the Ashley Barnes Snark subreddit. And
oh my god. These people are so shameless. Fucking Madison from Cruel World Happy Mind. She's absolutely fucking, like, shameless. I honestly think the real problem with Cruel World Happy Mind is the fact that she's just so online. Like, she admitted that she met her husband in online school. So I don't think she's had that much social interaction in the real world. I think she's always just been, like, very sheltered.
in terms of gathering in-depth research on this situation, I think that subreddit deserves a lot of credit, as you'll see in this video.
And that makes sense. Snark subreddits tout themselves as being places of discussion, and commentary YouTube literally has the word commentary in the
Would you even consider Madison, like, commentary? She kind of just, like, does a bunch of video essays on, like, slam dunk content and, like, downfalls of other people. Like, she did one on Caleb Hammer recently, and she did one on Ethan Klein. That was, like, absolute abysmal dog shit. It was, not only was it poorly researched, but she, like, intentionally lies in that video multiple times.
And because there's a lot of trust in the commentary sphere, these shoutouts have really served to normalize the use of Snark subreddits. The best way that I can describe it is like, okay, imagine there's a med school professor who really needs a cadaver for like a demonstration in class or something, and his neighbor, who he otherwise hasn't really spoken to, just kind of rolls up to him and is like, I have 16 dead bodies in my freezer, do you want them? And the med school professor is just kind of like, well, gee, thanks, mister. If anybody needs a cadaver, just ask Back Alley Pete. And At no point during this exchange does it ever occur to this med school professor to ask why or how Back Alley Pete ended up with 16 dead bodies in his freezer. Look, these commentary YouTubers engage with these Snark subreddits in a very one-off way, and I can respect that. They just kind of visit it once or twice and are like, okay, here are all of the documented reasons why people don't like Brittany Dawn or the LeBron family. And then they just kind of write the script for their video, and they cite when needed, and then they never think of the topic again. I actually even think that it's fine to source from Snark. I mean, I sourced from Snark for this video. The problem is that...
I disagree. I feel like when any information you get from Snark Reddits has to always be taken with a grain of salt. There are so many people, especially on the fucking, like, Ethan Snarkers, they, like, constantly lie. Same for Caleb Hammer Snarkers, even though I like to believe that there is some valid criticism of Caleb Hammer, absolutely. Caleb Hammer has just gotten worse and worse recently. Like, he, like, in one of his, like, most recent financial audit episodes, there was, like, an overweight woman. He constantly was, like, repeating fat jokes at her over and over and over again, and he was, like, sort of, like, regurgitating incel talking points just to, like, appeal to his right-wing audience. And it just feels like Caleb Hammer went from being, like, petty and catty on his financial audit show to just, like, being nasty for no reason. Like, he's actually just, like, being straight up nasty to these people for no reason. And it's just, like, I feel like it just gets to a point, right? It's disappointing, honestly. I've taken a break from Caleb Hammer's content given, like, the direction he's on. Like, I've reacted to 2 of Caleb Hammer's financial audits on the channel. One of them was about this fucking overly complacent guy who's on, like, fucking military disability and, like, not getting a job on anything. And he was just, like, fucking spending money on, like, tons of bullshit. And then there was another with, like, a throuple. And, like, I really enjoyed reacting to both of those on the channel, but now I'm just, like, kind of at a point where I just don't really, like, financial audit just feels very nasty. And I haven't really reacted to financial audit since because of the direction that Caleb's taken. I will say, though, the Snark Reddits that are dedicated to Caleb do like to lie about him as well, and they, like, tend to give him a lot of really stupid, dumb allegations.
While they engage with these Snarks casually, they don't really engage with them critically. Most of you probably already know this, but a primary source is a source as written by someone who personally experienced those events, like a diary entry or, say, a Reddit post, while a secondary source is written by someone who did not experience those events, like a textbook. The way that one engages with...
Well, wouldn't that technically make Snark Reddits, some Snark Reddits, like, secondary sources because they're just regurgitating things that they are seeing? I don't fully understand that point.
With a primary source is inherently very different than the way that one engages with a secondary source. If, for example, you're reading a review of Emily Bronte's 1847 novel Wuthering Heights from around the time it came out, and you find that that review is really, really negative, your takeaway from that review should not be that Wuthering Heights is an objectively bad book. It's not. It's the best book ever. Your takeaway should be, wow, this one specific person really didn't like Wuthering Heights. Why is that? Do they dislike the fact that all of the characters are really flawed? Do they dislike the way that it flouts certain, like, Christian values? Are they offended by the fact that it has an interracial relationship? And then you might look at other reviews that came out around the same time and see if they have similar complaints. And then one might look at the surrounding culture of Britain in 1847 and see if there might have been some sort of cultural reason that would make a person living at that time less receptive to a book containing extremely flawed characters or an interracial romance than a person living now. There's nothing inherently wrong with reaching out to the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and liaison of the We Hate Person X Club, and I actually think that that can provide really valuable insight into why exactly Person X inspires such vitriol. However, you need to understand that that's what you're doing and take what they say with a grain of salt, and you absolutely need to reach out to counter sources. Like, your takeaway from Snark should not be that Person X is an objectively horrible human being. It should be, wow, these people who openly interpret everything that Person X says or does as uncharitably as possible say that this happened. Why don't I reach out to some of Person X's fans? Still keeping in mind that they tend to interpret everything that Person X says as charitably as possible. And then let me look at what Person X actually said or did and decide for myself which interpretation is true. And it's okay for your takeaway to be that Person X is an objectively terrible person, but if you're going to take it upon yourself to essentially give a PowerPoint presentation to however many, like, hundreds of followers about why this person is terrible, your threshold for how you come to that conclusion needs to be higher. What I'm trying to say is that they treat Snark like a secondary source when they really need to be treating it like a primary source.
I don't agree. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with this point. I'm sorry. Like, listen, like, Dollhouse is generally on the mark with a lot of points. I don't agree with this point. I think that Snark Reddits a lot of times are just retellings of what other people say. Now, there are some exceptions to that rule. Like, sometimes I'll use Caleb Hammer's Snark as an example again. I remember Papa Gut was covering, like, a Hinge story, like an old Hinge date that Caleb went on. And, like, there was this date that came out anonymously on the creepy Caleb Hammer subreddit, and they were giving their story. It was kind of just, like, a lot of bullshit. Like, I read through it. It seemed like absolute nonsense. Like, it was like, oh, she was nervous around Caleb, but she still hung out with him. And, like, she allowed him to go in, like, I forget all the details, but I remember it being, like, absolute fucking, like, nonsense of an allegation. And it just seems like they came forward for one reason or another. Who knows why they came forward. Like, the point is that, like, those are exceptions to that rule, but a lot of these Snark Reddits, they'll, like, repost a video. They'll repost, like, a screenshot or something using sources of their own, so that would still technically make it a secondary source. I just don't understand why we're treating Snark as, like, a primary source. I don't agree with that.
Look, I'm not defending Snark or anything, but, like, in its defense, this is just supposed to be a forum for people to talk shit. It's not supposed to be a scholarly source. I don't think anyone...
But didn't you just say that Snark should be treated as a primary source? I don't understand. I'm more confused at what her point is here.
One in Snark necessarily minds being treated like a scholarly source, but that doesn't mean that they should be. So, why do people parasocially hate, and why do they engage with content that upsets them? Because people they trust have told them that it's okay. Who benefits? These YouTubers. Because they get to assume the air of thorough research without actually doing their due diligence. They don't do the work of engaging with their sources critically, but...
It depends who you ask. I guess Cruel World Happy Mind would be very guilty of that, sure.
They're still gonna get praised for their research and thoroughness because certain people equate length with depth.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, I guess, like, content creators are just held to a higher standard because you would think, like, a long video essay, your video, as an example, would contain thorough amounts of research. And it does there have been some sightings in this video. But with, in the case of Cruel World Happy Mind, the videos are long and people just automatically go, oh, she did all the work for me. I could just sit down and watch this, and I assume that, like, I'll take her word for it because she's in good faith. When in reality, she heavily lies in a lot of her videos, and she's, like, a incredibly nasty person.
And they get Snark.
She also thought that Ethan Klein would be slam dunk content, but she absolutely got, like, tons of fucking backlash for it. I would say her channel's doing fine, but it's not, like... I would say her career definitely took a hit after the Ethan Klein controversy that she got herself into.
To watch their videos and laud them for just being so good at what they do. The fact that said YouTuber is just repeating the Snarker's point back to them is just a coincidence. When I announced I was making this video, people got mad at me, sounds like a day that ends in Y, for treating Snark like some sort of malevolent force. Snark is just criticism, they told me.
Snark is just criticism? I feel like in a lot of cases, these Snark Reddits just go beyond the criticism point. I mean, again, if you look at the Ethan Klein stuff, a lot of these Snark Reddits were involved in fucking sending CPS to his house and sending 2 human skulls to his house. So, like, again, all the Snark Reddits, it's basically, like, obviously there's no doxing that goes on in the subreddits, but it's all the harassment and all the, like, nasty shit that goes on leading up to the doxing. Because obviously if there was actual doxing, these subreddits would be permabanned.
They're just criticizing celebrities. And you know what? Fine. I'll bite. A very common through line in the interviews that I conducted was that many people who were attracted to Snark had originally been fans of a thing, only to find that subreddit moderators had been way too quick to ban or delete posts that had good faith criticism. There seems to be a disconnect in Reddit fan groups. Some feel like fan spaces should be fun and positive places for people to connect over something that they like, while others want it to be a more neutral ground for general discussion. So, a lot of Snarkers seem to have been born because they felt like their criticisms were being shut down, and they were attracted to Snark because they felt like that was the one place where their criticisms could be heard. And then, in an echo chamber full of haters, they went from being fans with a couple complaints to being just straight up haters themselves. There was also a theme of disillusionment with celebrity culture and the idea that Snarks were sort of a form of democracy. No longer can we only hear about celebrities from their PR people and from their carefully curated media appearances. We've placed the power of media commentary back into the hands of the people. Listen, I actually don't think that negativity is always a bad thing. Look at my last video. Sometimes we need to point out when something's done badly so we can have greater appreciation for when it's done right.
Or just like valid criticism in general. Again, there's a lot of content, there's a lot of things that do deserve criticism, so that way we can expect better going forward. That's the general idea of giving criticism.
That also applies to content creators. Believe it or not, I did not just call out Harnish and Kastner because I wanted to be mean. I brought them up in the hopes that anyone who wants to make content where they position themselves as an authority will do so with more objectivity and professionalism. However, I don't think it's necessarily as easy as saying that subreddits need to become less echo chambery. I've seen for myself how even one critical post can lead to a domino effect that makes a subreddit well nigh unusable for anyone who's uninterested in the discourse and who just wants to engage with this thing that they're a fan of. Something else I want to talk about is the insistent separation between normal snarkers and the more unhinged snarkers. People suggested that the crossing of moral lines, the calling of CPS on Jill Rodriguez, the sending of skulls to the Kleins, the bullying of Michaela Raines into suicide was...
That's her name, Michaela Raines, who ran the Save the Fox initiative or something like that. Or like she like ran like a Fox YouTube channel and she had a Snark Reddit of her own just because she had autism. That was her name, Michaela Raines. Now I remember. That was so fucked up and disgusting, man. It's just so, like, weird. Again, like, people... Again, there's, like, a weird sub-community on TikTok and, like, on the internet of people that just go after others for intellectual and developmental disabilities that, because they're easier to troll for one reason or another. And just because she was, like, a little bit, like, I guess, off or, like, had autism, that was enough for them to bully the shit out of her, even though she had nothing that warranted it whatsoever. It's so disgusting.
Work of some sort of fringe group. Not the normal snarkers. And yes, many people I talked to had not been super dedicated users and had considered it at best a casual interest. But it would be remiss of me not to talk about something that the former Trishyland mod told me. I do hope you take one understanding of this that I fundamentally believe. The evil, the plotting, the scheming, it happens on Discord, not Reddit. The Reddit was a casual channel, but the moderator Discord? Hell, that's where one member found the health clinic Trisha was getting fertility testing done, and other mods encouraged them to make a post on the Reddit, which led to people calling that clinic. That's where things get coordinated. Posts, brigading, video watching, etc. So, allegedly, a Discord that was directly associated with the subreddit, and which included a lot of the moderators of said subreddit, was directly coordinating the online stalking and abuse of their target. Interesting. Someone else I spoke to told me that she'd had a similar experience with haters of the YouTuber Dissociadid. Another experience that really stuck with me was on the r/Dissociadid subreddit. For context, Dissociadid is a YouTuber who makes videos about living with DID, that's dissociative identity disorder.
Okay, gotcha.
Also called multiple personality disorder.
I don't know, a little bit. I tend to take things, when people say stuff like that, I tend to take it with a bit of a grain of salt. It could actually be living with it for all I know. It could be legitimate, but, you know, there's, unfortunately, after 2020 TikTok, a lot of people like to put neurodivergent, autism, ADHD, or, like, a bunch of stuff in their bio, and a lot of people tend to do it just for, like, attention, or, like, brownie points, good girl, good boy points. And, maybe it could be that, or it could also be like a legitimate thing. I guess if you name your whole YouTube channel after that, I would assume that there probably is some level of legitimacy to it. So I could be reading too deep into it. Who knows?
And has been involved with multiple controversies, including one involving their former partner creating fetish content depicting children. The subreddit functioned largely as a snark space around these controversies, with many users dissecting Dissocia DID's TikTok thirst traps or claiming that Dissocia DID didn't actually have DID. Personally, I don't think that's my place to judge. At most, I find their videos a bit dramatized. At one point, Dissocia DID made a video calling out the subreddit, after which the harassment intensified. A user made a post claiming they had sent audio messages of themselves moaning to one of Dissocia DID's TikTok accounts.
Oh. Well, that's fascinating, to say the least.
They justified this by saying that Dissocia DID's thirst traps had triggered them into a sexual state, so
Alright, that's... Can't be doing that.
they felt compelled to send sexually harassing messages.
Yeah, well, because that's, this is the same logic that predators use when they get caught trying to sleep with children. They'll say something along the lines of, oh, but, like, the child was doing this thing, and they were engaging with me first, and they compelled me into being sexy with that. It's like, this is the same excuse that they're using right here. Like, oh no, the thirst traps are, I don't know, fucking jerk off to it and don't tell anybody. Like, I don't know. Like, fucking, don't fucking send them direct messages and make it known. Like, that's weird. Weird shit, bro.
I was horrified by this. While some users agreed it was disgusting, others actually defended it by claiming Dissocia DID had behaved inappropriately, which I found completely absurd. The user was eventually banned, but it left me with the feeling that without the subreddit amplifying these controversies, especially through sexualization, this escalation might never have happened. Most importantly, yeah, even if a snark starts from a place of legitimate criticism, acting like it's all legitimate criticism would be incredibly obtuse of me, to say the least. Spanky Valentine, who publicly goes by Swoop, is a YouTuber who really came to prominence in the summer of 2023 over her thorough coverage of the Colleen Ballinger situation. At the time, Valentine was highly praised for how seriously she clearly took the subject and the perceived depth and originality of her videos. Then, in October of 2023, Valentine announced that she would not be releasing an exclusive interview with one of the alleged victims of Ballinger's brother, Trent. Hence, r/Swoop Snarks was born. Now, I have my own problems.
It's crazy because Swoop was, like, shouting out Snark Reddits, and now she kind of got her own Snark Reddit, so I guess that's, in a weird way, it's a little bit poetic.
With Valentine's content. Between you and me, she could have gotten her own section in my last video. But I visited Valentine's Snark page, and it would be incredibly obtuse of me to act as though every single post on there, or even most posts, are good faith criticisms of her content. I saw posts mocking her makeup, her cheap wig. What's wrong with a cheap wig? Her sense of
Whoa, self-report?
humor, her veneers, the quote-unquote self-righteous gargle in her voice, and other things that have absolutely nothing to do with her work. I even saw one person posting photos of her pre-YouTube days. One of the people I spoke to who'd been a lurker on this subreddit told me that they'd been turned off because the subreddit was repeatedly posting Valentine's real name. If the snark was restricted to pathetic comments on her appearance, I wouldn't be writing this email. Swoop does not publicly reveal her actual name. She has an alias that she uses. The subreddit has repeatedly doxed her real name.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Again, this is what I'm talking about. People are like, oh, but snark is just criticism. That's what I'm talking about. They dox. Listen, if they were actually, I feel like they use loopholes around, the Reddit rules. They won't post doxes on, actual Reddits. But what they will do is they'll, I guess, tell you ways to get access to that information. So it's I would argue probably just as bad, because I would imagine that they're not actually posting the real docs, unless they are, which is fucking crazy if Reddit's doing absolutely nothing about it. Again, I said at the very beginning of this video, Reddit really should do something about snark Reddits, fucking engaging in this behavior.
What makes this more perturbing is that while mention of her name is not allowed on the subreddit, there are many clandestine references to how you can find out her name through a quick Google search. The even more fascinating part to this puzzle is that many Redditors on the subreddit assert that Swoop is lying about her age. While there's some conversation to be had about Swoop's odd choice to lie about her age, the fact that any discussion surrounding it also reveal her name feels way too invasive to justify that behavior. It's also disturbing to think about the fact that a community got together and discovered all of this information about her that she obviously did not want to publicize. For me, it was just a series of searches on the subreddit. I can't imagine the amount of time they must have invested in gathering these facts about her. But that's just the Swoop Snark. Surely they can't all be like that. Let's look at the Ash Trevino Snark, where they're calling her fat and ugly. Okay,
Yeah, Ash Trevino was the video that Swoop made a video on. Yeah, now I remember. Yeah, because Swoop made like a large video on Ash Trevino, and apparently it was like a decent video. But Swoop is kind of apparently just like a bit of a weirdo themselves. I don't know. I haven't seen anything that warrants me like hating Swoop or even disliking Swoop for that matter. I do find them a little bit. I find them strange for the fact that they overvalidated like a Snark Reddit and says shout out to Snark Reddits, and they seem to got some level of poetic justice for that. I actually, to be fair, I wouldn't say doxing is poetic justice. That's pretty bad. But having like a Snark Reddit dedicated to you about everything that isn't that is some level of like, okay, well, you were overvalidating Snark Reddits and then you got one of your own. It's like kind of, at that point, it's like, all right, I feel like a little bit of that is somewhat your own doing, but not the doxing part. I don't think you should dox her.
Tara Yummy Snark? They seem to be offended that she's cringe. Oh no, someone call Interpol. Michaela Nagera? They're
Whoa, dollhouse, that sounded like another word there. Whoa!
mad about the way that she applies her makeup and also mad at her for being cringe. Look, I'm not...
She might be a good girlfriend for Nicholas Diorio. What do you guys think? Michaela, yeah, Michaela would be a great, she'd be a great girlfriend for Nicholas Diorio. That's all I'm gonna say. We're gonna leave it at that.
saying that none of these people deserve criticism. I have heard whispers about Trevino, and that's frankly more than I ever needed to hear. I've heard Nagara has a history of scamming people, and
dude, guys, if you hear it, you won't be able to unhear it. I'm sorry that I did this to you.
like I said, I'm really not a fan of Valentine's content. But these snarks all seem to focus on the superficial rather than focusing on the very real reasons that people have for criticizing these people. And in fact, seem to use those very real reasons as justification for going after people's personal appearances. YouTuber Talia Is Not Cool made a video about Snark subreddits where she echoes this sentiment.
Because these communities, like I said, even if they began with good intentions, they almost always spiral into people making just like the most surface level observations alongside the deepest, nastiest comments about the subject of the page. And
I'm curious what the good intentions are, though. Like, again, like, Creepy Caleb Hammer is a Snark Reddit, but, like, I feel like a lot of Creepy Caleb Hammer was just, like, done by a bunch of people who already didn't like Caleb Hammer anyways, and they weren't a fan of the whole Jerry Springer, like, energy that what Caleb Hammer would put on his, like, show.
I feel like it's a shame that someone might come away from a Snark page feeling insecure about something like the way they speak or the way they look, and almost feeling like they've been sort of like vicariously bullied, if you know what I mean. For an example of this, I came across this discussion about Regan from TikTok's Snark page, but eventually I found Regan, her actual like Snark page, and people were sharing things like this. They were saying, her chin scares me, and she has weird granny-shaped legs. The poster wrote that they'd visited...
Bro, these people are so weird. Like, it seems like Snark is, like, actually a problem, though. Like, unironically. Like, not even just, like, Ethan Klein's Snark Reddit. It's just, like, Snark is a huge problem. I really do wonder why no one does anything about Snark Reddit. I really wonder. There clearly needs to be fucking more done about these Snark pages.
The Snark subreddit, and they left with the takeaway that, quote, these people are posting that she's drinking too much at a music festival. For context, she's a 21-year-old girl. Like, what is the issue with that? And then a response clarified, get this, the influencer they're talking about killed her cat. To which the original poster wrote, they said, so talk about the actual issue. And they have a point. No, like, obviously neglecting an animal is deplorable. It should be spoken out against. But then why are we talking about her chin and her legs? The thing is, like, you kind of have to start expanding your commentary on the events that have unfolded, including this person. You kind of have to expand them into Snark if you want to keep up the chatter around the subject, right? Because at some point, speaking about the fact that Regan777 allegedly, I don't know who this girl is, killed her cat, at some point that gets a bit dry. At that point, I'd say you'd be better off just dropping it, ignoring her, letting her fade into obscurity. But others, I suppose, would rather keep up the conversation, even if it's got nothing to do with the actual serious matter at hand.
I also need to point out that these are almost exclusively targeting women. James Charles enjoys fame and influence despite the fact that Charles has openly admitted to messaging minors, and yet the closest thing I could find to a James Charles snark only had 6 members.
Well, I remember... I remember a lot of the James Charles allegations are very... they're so weird. Again, I haven't deep dived, like, every single one of them, so there's probably... maybe there's one that's, like, really bad. But, like, I remember, like, half the allegations of James Charles, at the very least, half of them are fake. Like, they were done by people that were just making shit up. Unfortunately, you had people like fucking Deaf Noodles who were just, like, reporting on all the fake shit. And, like, also, like, in some of the allegations, James Charles was, like, not verifying ages properly. Like, I'm pretty sure one of the allegations was, like, talking to a 14-year-old at the age of 18. I would say that's rough if James Charles knew the age of the person. I would say 18 and 14 is pretty rough, I gotta say. If James Charles knew the age, but I think in some of them he wasn't verifying the ages. And I think another allegation was 16 and 21. Also kind of rough if James Charles knew the ages. Again, I think it gets to a point where, like, James Charles has, like, 10 to 15 allegations against him, and I think the bigger conversation is, like, at what point do we have to start assigning blame to you if you fail to verify ages constantly? Like, why do you keep getting yourself in that situation again and again and again and again? It's like, at what point do we realize, all right, dude, like, we've been through this song and dance before. Are you, like, purposely not verifying the ages? I don't know. There's a rumor, and I don't know if this is true, but there's a rumor that Ethan Klein is working on an H3H3 Productions video about James Charles. I don't even know if that rumor's true. Who knows? If he actually is, and there is, like, a legitimate allegation, or if there is, like, a legitimate comprehensive, like, history of James Charles and his allegations, like, I definitely, maybe I'll give it a watch and I'll actually give, like, a legitimate take on it, but I'm pretty sure, like, the James Charles allegations, a lot of them were fake, and then James Charles was just being, like, a fucking idiot and not verifying the ages, like, multiple times, so I wouldn't say that I've seen anything too predatory yet, but my opinion on that could very well change given any other context about it, maybe.
Shane Dawson built his career off of doing minstrelsy and sexualizing minors, and yet his...
Oh, yeah, that video is disgusting. That video, I'm pretty sure in that video, Shane Dawson was, like, 23 and he kissed, like, a 12-year-old fan. And didn't he, like, disguise it as, like, an edgy joke? It's pretty disgusting. Like, that's gross. It's like...
Dawson built his career off of doing minstrelsy and
then that's blackface. And, yeah, this fan, I believe this fan is, like, 12 years old. That's gross. That's pretty disgusting. I gotta say, like, kissing a fucking 12-year-old fan and excusing it as an edgy joke, even for back then standards, when the internet was a lot more edgy back then, kissing a 12-year-old fan is rough. I gotta say, that's pretty rough.
Minor.
Yeah, this is tough. I can't justify this one. That's pretty bad. This, to me, is, like, the most damning thing against Shane Dawson, personally. Like, this one's pretty bad.
And yet his Snark subreddit has been inactive for 3 years. Look, most of you are adults. I'm not your mom. I can't...
You don't know that? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. I'm joking. That was a joke.
I tell you what to do. But as an outside observer, it's pretty interesting how people's morals tend to fly out the window as soon as they get an opportunity to go after someone that they don't like. For example,
I mean, it depends. You know, sometimes I don't really care. Like, if someone like EDP, for example, who tried to meet up with who he thought was a 13-year-old while he was 30, like, if someone like him got tons of harassment, or, like, people had Snark Reddits dedicated to EDP, I'm not exactly going to feel sorry for the motherfucker. The dude's a pedophile. But, like, in regards to, like, someone like Ethan Klein, right? Like, again, sending 2 human skulls to his house and, like, falsely calling CPS on him, that's... step too far for me, and I would say most normal people.
3 Snark is very fond of accusing Ethan Klein of being addicted to drugs due to his twitching and coughing. He has Tourette's. He has been very open about the fact that he has Tourette's. Or of crashing out, a slang term...
Oh god, not that that Vanilla Mace person has always been so fucking weird. She is like, Vanilla Mace is like a super opportunistic person. I remember there was like drama with her and Cutie Cinderella where she was like purity testing Cutie Cinderella. Vanilla Mace is like a bit of a weirdo for sure.
Referring to a public mental breakdown. This speculation is never brought up with any empathy or in an attempt to persuade fellow snarkers to give Klein grace. Mental illness and addiction are used to mock and degrade. Everybody wants to support addicts until you get an opportunity to insult an influencer you don't like, and suddenly you're all Nancy Reagan. For those of you who don't know, Valentine is a black woman. She has not been shy about the fact that she is a black woman. She made a video in 2020 exposing her former friend for microaggressions against her as a black woman. So, imagine my consternation when I came across this post. 5 years ago versus 5 months ago. You guys weren't kidding when you said that she seems to enjoy washing herself out. The comments were full of people concern trolling about how sad this was. That's sad. She has a beautiful skin tone and the washout makes her look ill in comparison. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think she does it on purpose because passing and being racially ambiguous is very unfortunately helpful. Like, unfortunately, there's a huge portion of people who wouldn't click on her video if she was a black woman. Her giving that line of if she's black or not in her videos and thumbnails definitely helps boost her appearing in the algorithm. Certain people get thrown off when they find out she's a person of color.
I mean, I knew she was a person of color when I was watching her videos, but I don't know, man. I kind of saw it as, like, not nearly as bad as this extent, but, like, sort of like Michael Jackson, where Michael Jackson do, like, a bunch of drugs and, like, bleach his skin? And, like, you could easily mistake Michael Jackson as a white person, like, especially if once he got older, even though he is a black person. Like, it's very, I don't know. I don't think that Swoop is doing it nearly to that extent, but she certainly, like, she probably does, like, artificially, like, lighten her skin. I kind of sort of got that vibe. Not that I particularly care. Like, it just sort of is, like, something I noticed.
I hate this dumb racist world we live in, but you're completely right. I hope things keep improving.
How outraged are these people? I feel like these people are looking for excuses to get outraged. They're not, I don't really think that they actually care about any of this.
Me too, poop dog. Me too. To be honest, if anything, I'd say this image change could also be for marketability or uniqueness purposes. You recognize her neon blue hair instantly on a thumbnail, which is what every YouTuber wants, to stand out. Anyway, who are we to judge how one looks? But I'll always get a little sad when people do this self-whitewashing, imposed by other people, not imposed by us at all, and overall society. Honestly, well said. As a white person, I have no authority or right to speculate on why a person of color may want to whitewash themselves or judge them for it. Oh, great. So you're not going to, right? Right? As a white person, I have no authority or right to speculate on why a person of color may want to whitewash themselves or judge them for it. I certainly cannot relate to or understand what Spanky goes through as a...
It's usually a disclaimer that they put up before they proceed to whitewash or try to speculate. Like, they just say that just to make it seem like they're not doing it, but they are, to some degree, doing it that way.
Person of color, and I understand that marketing herself as whiter than she is probably makes her life easier, which is truly unfair and depressing. All I can say confidently is that the difference between her natural complexion, which is beautiful, and how she chooses to edit her appearance is jarring. I wish that whatever reasons have compelled her to edit herself to look like this did not exist. She is naturally a very pretty woman. As a white person, I have no right or authority to speculate on why a person of color may want to whitewash themselves. Anyway, here's my speculation on why a person of color may want to whitewash themselves.
Yeah. Every single time. Every single fucking time.
Someone had the decency to comment on the ridiculousness of a subreddit full of presumably white people speculating on a...
It's just, again, I don't actually see legitimate people being outraged by something like this. Like, again, like, did she use, like, a filter or maybe something to lighten her, like, artificially lighten her skin? Yeah, but who cares? Like, if that's what she wants to do, let her do that shit. Like, I don't know. I feel like this is just such a non-criticism.
Person of color's relationship with their own identity. And I don't want to make any assumptions about the racial makeup of that subreddit, but I'm actually going to go a step further and say that it doesn't even matter. Like, that's not an appropriate thing for anyone to publicly speculate on, regardless of whether or not they're a person of color. I need you all to stop and think about what it really means to allege that someone is ashamed of their skin color. Like, it's so unnecessary. It's mean. It's just fucking mean. And we're all ignoring the much more likely explanation, which is that this filter brightens Valentine's wig and lipstick. Before Valentine made documentaries, she made more general lifestyle content. Now that she makes drama videos, it makes sense that her lighting and filters would be more dramatic.
I mean, I guess. I feel like we're in a time period right now where, like, also, freeze frame, by the way. But, we're in, like, a time period right now where, like, we're just in a bit of a low-effort period. So, I mean, I guess it's easy for me to say I don't have my camera on. I just give my commentary and what I think, so I don't fucking do lighting at all. I talk. So, I guess, maybe it's easier for me to say it. But I feel like if you're doing drama content, it's like already there's a lot of it that's pretty low effort. But that's why a lot of people do it, and also some people just love drama content. Some people enjoy it, and you know that's also a huge part of it. It's low effort and it's fun to talk about and shit. So yeah, that's why a lot of people do drama content. It's easy to do, and it's also easy to monetize once you get there. Hopefully we get there. We're almost at 500 subscribers, which means I'll be able to monetize the channel when I do. So, guys, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? Subscribe.
Genuinely boggles my mind how these people would justifiably be up in arms if this happened to a person that they actually like. But because it's happening to a person that they dislike, that provides perfect justification for them to publicly speculate that she is ashamed of her race. Look, I need to put aside my own personal disgust if I'm ever going to answer the question as to why people do this. So again, let's ask ourselves, why do people obsessively parasocially hate? And why do they engage with content that they find upsetting? Well, in the case of Valentine, like I said, she really blew up in the summer of 2023 due to her coverage of the Colleen Ballinger grooming drama.
Oh, yeah, the whole fucking... Oh, God, Adam McIntyre. Dude, Adam McIntyre is such a drama fiend. I just don't like this guy at all. Adam McIntyre is such a fucking weirdo. Listen, the Colleen Ballinger stuff is not good. Like, obviously, like, her, like, sending pictures of her underwear to kids and, like, her engaging in very strange behavior in regards to some of the live shows as Miranda sings was definitely very inappropriate. A lot of it's definitely not good. But a lot of it, more than likely, is not, like, with the intention of sexually grooming children. Again, like, the behavior's not appropriate. Colleen Ballinger probably shouldn't be a content creator, but I feel like a lot of people just, like, use words about how they feel about a situation. And then Adam McIntyre was basically cosplaying as a grooming victim and saying that it's all grooming. And it's just, like, he sort of just, like, rode the drama wave, and then he fucking just engages in, like, fucking drama fiend content and snarking after people like Ethan Klein. So it's like, I don't know, man. It's just one of those things where I just don't fucking... Like, people are so weird in regards to the Colleen Ballinger situation. It's like, obviously, again, I don't think she should be a content creator, but what happened was not grooming. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, that's just, like, that's the reality of the situation. Like, she wasn't trying to groom children or use it to wear down their boundaries to try to take advantage of them sexually. She wasn't doing any of that. Again, the conversations were not appropriate, though. Have to emphasize that.
Valentine was praised for going beyond the normal scope of coverage for a drama channel by reaching out to the subjects directly for interviews, even debunking certain allegations and providing Ballinger's ex-husband, Joshua David Evans, don't ask me why we're on a full name basis, with a chance to publicly speak in a way that he had not been able to do before. Her coverage of the situation was very quickly considered the best of the best, especially after she was given direct endorsement by Ballinger's accusers. However, Valentine's content has some idiosyncrasies. She's clearly very emotionally invested in her subjects and has a tendency to bring up her own personal experiences with racism, sexual grooming, and health problems.
Yeah. Here's the thing, right? I remember a while back, back in the summer, I did an interview with Alchemist Area about it's a YouTuber named Alchemist Area who I was one of the 2 people involved in his massive cancellation. Again, I have like videos covering the Area situation in hindsight. What happened, Area's behavior was not appropriate at all, and probably warranted some level of him getting called out for it. But I definitely do think that there was some of the backlash that was a little bit disproportionate against Area. I just think that what happened, very, very inappropriate. He wound up reaching out in the comments section. I was not expecting him to do that. And I wound up managing to get an interview with him, which I was not expecting to get an interview with Alchemist Area. And I wound up bringing up my own cancellation a lot. And if there's one thing I could do better in the interview is definitely don't do that. Because, like, bringing up my own cancellation makes it selfish and it makes it about me. And I was trying to... I think my intention originally was to try to make it so that Area could relate to, like, some level of disproportionate cancellation, just so he would be more comfortable talking about it. But I probably shouldn't have talked about it as much as I did. I probably should have brought it up maybe, like, once or twice and then moved on from it and never said anything else about it. So that's definitely something I'm going to do going forward if I ever do any more interviews. I'd like to get more interview content. I've just never had the opportunity. The only other time that I was about to get an interview was with that Super Scratch Cat person, who's another Object Show community content creator who got canceled. I was trying to get like an interview with them. They didn't feel comfortable doing it in like a voice call. I would have preferred to do it in a voice call just because I think it's more authentic to do it that way. And that's kind of the reason why the interview just hasn't came out. Like, he said he would have done an interview if it was in chat, and I just don't think that's something I would have been willing to do. Oh, sorry, she. Sorry, I totally forgot. Super Scratch Cat is she, not he. My bad. But yeah. I would like to get more interview content eventually, if the opportunity ever arises, or like conversation content, having a conversation with somebody for YouTube content, that would always be good stuff.
While I recognize that this is probably a way for her to relate to the subjects better and to give herself more of an air of authority, I understand why to some this comes off as egotistical and manipulative. She also has a tendency to infuse jokes into her videos through a segment called Petty University, which many find...
I mean, like, would it be, manipulative, though, if she's projecting her own experiences about grooming? I don't know if it would be manipulative. You could say it's probably irresponsible. I just don't know how it would be manipulative. That's a little confusing.
...find insensitive given the seriousness of the topics she covers. In addition, I've noticed that Valentine can be very irresponsible about the way that she talks about mental health. In her first video on Ballinger, for example, she called Ballinger's behavior, quote, narcissistic grooming, end quote, inadvertently diagnosing Colleen Ballinger with narcissistic personality disorder, which, as...
That is pretty crazy to do. Because, like, narcissism is like a DSM-5 diagnosis, potentially DSM-6, because apparently the DSM-6 is supposed to come out as well, but for all intents and purposes, DSM-5 until then. Just... Again, I think it's fucking crazy that, like, people are just, like, so willing to say, like, oh my god, Colleen Ballinger's, like, a horrific... It's not grooming. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, the conversations were not appropriate, but at no point was Colleen trying to use that to get them more comfortable with sexual conversation so she can take advantage of them. Again, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's just not grooming. A lot of people in the online world tend to use words that feel intense, or describe how they feel about a situation. The reality of the situation is that Colleen Ballinger's conversations, very inappropriate, shouldn't be a content creator. Also, sending underwear to a minor, very fucking weird. Again, Colleen Ballinger was, like, in her 30s. You should know better. But, again, stop with, like, being so disproportionate with the language. Like, it's just, it's insane the way people talk about the situation sometimes.
Far as I am aware, in true social media fashion, Valentine has no medical authority to do. In her first video about Rose Blanchard, Valentine speculates...
I want to play it safe and censor that word because that is a slur. I know Dollhouse didn't mean to say it in that context, but I'm pretty sure that is a slur, so let's just cut that out and be safe.
That Blanchard's co-conspirator and the person who actually committed the crime, Nicholas Godejean, has dissociative identity disorder when not even his legal team has ever claimed that. Her sources seem to be the fictional Hulu show The Act and Oxygen's Killer Couples. Believe me, those videos do not endear her to me. Valentine also clearly takes herself extremely seriously, referring to her videos as documentaries and using the tagline, "It's not drama, it's dangerous." Many consider her the gold standard of YouTube drama videos. Valentine's openness about her personal struggles and her claim that her channel provides a safe space for survivors has made her audience incredibly protective of her. I think many see her not just as a victim advocate, but as the victim advocate. So speaking against Valentine is, in some of her fans' eyes, speaking against survivors as a whole. Given her reputation and given her insistent branding as a victim advocate, it's understandable that people are more critical of her failure to live up to that reputation. So in that case, her critics aren't really annoyed about their own parasocial relationship with her so much as they're annoyed with other people's parasocial relationship with her. And you know what? I get it. I wouldn't have made my last video if I didn't understand how annoying it is to see someone praised for their journalistic integrity when all they do is use the aesthetics of other better YouTube channels to try and lend themselves some credibility without actually doing the work that goes into those other better YouTube channels.
I mean, I guess I don't know if I fully understand this point, because there are YouTubers that like take some level of inspiration. Like, no idea is original, and like some YouTubers take ideas from other people like all the time. I don't know if that necessarily is like a strong point against her. Like, again, obviously there are some criticisms against Swoop or Valentine that you could do or give, because it's just like, obviously, like, she is a little bit inappropriate in some of these interviews, but I don't know if this is like, I don't know if I think that this is the strong point that you may think it is. I don't know.
And it's especially understandable given Valentine's coverage of extremely serious topics like child grooming. Like I said, I am not a fan of Valentine.
Well, it depends. If you're talking about child grooming online, typically it boils down to a bunch of really silly allegations. Though I guess it is a lot more serious nowadays, with MAGA being totally fine with child predators existing both in the organized religion churches, as well as Donald Trump being in the Epstein files. And also Tectone, who defends Lolly, also held liable in a civil case for raping and stalking his ex-girlfriend. Can't own a gun for 10 years. In Texas, by the way.
Valentine's content either, and I certainly have my own criticisms of her. Those criticisms don't really have anything to do with her wig or her makeup or her veneers, though. I think two things can be true at the same time. Yes, Valentine should absolutely be held to a higher level of scrutiny. And this Snark subreddit isn't really doing anything to hold her accountable. This Snark has existed for 2.5 years, and as of her last video, Valentine still does Petty University, still calls herself a documentary filmmaker, and still
I don't know about that one. Filmmaker is gonna do a lot of heavy lifting for you.
Uses the "it's not drama, it's dangerous" tagline. It's important to note that there are plenty of legitimate criticisms on Valentine's Snark subreddit. Criticisms of her biased coverage, of her content being potentially harmful, of her treatment of her subjects, especially her female subjects. But the problem is that those criticisms are being hosted on the same subreddit, allowing Petty posts about her wig and her lighting and her racial identity. If I were a really hardcore Valentine stan, it'd be really easy for me to just write off every single post in here and not listen to the valid criticisms. It's also very important to acknowledge that as someone who is not subscribed to Valentine, her online presence is very easy to ignore. I hadn't thought about her in years until two of the people that I spoke to said that they had been part of her Snark, and I was like, Swoop has a Snark? Really? And, you know, 3 weeks later, here we are. I completely understand that when someone is making harmful content, your first impulse is to document it. However, I do need to remind everyone that no one is forcing you to watch her videos or follow her on social media. And if you try to ignore her presence for a week or two, you might be surprised by how much smaller of a problem she seems. I'm not even saying it for her sake. She's an adult and she can take it. I'm saying it for the Snarker's sake.
Oh, she can take it? I don't know about that one. She can take it.
Making harmful content is bad and deserves to be called out, absolutely. But at a certain point, we all need to acknowledge that yelling about the same topic until we're blue in the face isn't really doing anything to take down that bad content, and is honestly only really harming us. Case in point, I have no intentions of talking about Kastner or Harnish ever again. So, I suppose my answer is that, at least in some cases, people obsessively parasocially hate because someone has been placed on a pedestal that they don't deserve to be on. And people engage with content that they find upsetting because they feel like they're doing something good by criticizing it.
They feel like they're doing something good, or they're just doing it for brownie points. I don't fucking know, man. I feel like a lot of it is just like virtue signaling online more than anything. And then, yeah, like there is some level of like trying to feel good about yourself more than anything. You do it more for yourself than the actual act of it under the pretense of it being a good deed.
So, who benefits? In theory, it would benefit anyone who wants to know more about the creator, but in practice, a lot of these criticisms are hidden under a pile of petty bullying that makes those legitimate criticisms way easier to ignore. So, really, the person who's being snarked on benefits. Like I said in my last video, criticizing people is just fun. First of all, there is absolutely an entertainment value in seeing just how low a person can go.
Yeah, I mean, why do you think I do this for my main content? It's fucking very low effort. And again, like, I would say right now, as of, I guess, April 2026, like, this is going to be April by the time this video goes live, we are in a pretty low effort, I guess, like, time period, for sure, when it comes to drama content, or I guess content creation in general. It's not even, like, limited to just drama content.
The fact that Nick DeRamio's most popular videos all revolve around criticizing Shane Dawson is not a coincidence. There's a weird, morbid fascination in watching Dawson berate his employees and act like a total diva. Secondly, like I said before, it's really reassuring to be confronted with someone who's so much worse than you. Someone I talked to echoed this sentiment, saying, "The first thing I'll say is that Snark can feel good, almost intoxicatingly so. For me, this was especially true during low points in my life. Making fun of people like Colleen Ballinger or Brittany Dawn, who are terrible people."
Yeah, I mean, I guess Colin Ballinger's not a particularly great person, but also, again, I feel like people are just like, I feel like people heavily overloaded the narrative with Colleen Ballinger. I feel like they were doing, again, people no doubt did like way too much in regards to the way they called her out.
Gave me a sense of moral distance. No matter how bad I felt about myself, I knew I would never be that bad. The ex-Trishyland moderator agreed, saying, quote, "The moderators had group calls where we talked about ex-boyfriends, debt, life drama, and somehow we're all able to laugh about comparing it to Trisha's life. It sure is easy to feel good about yourself when comparing your life to that of a professional train wreck, isn't it?" Snark subreddits provide a sense of false empowerment to their users. Celebrities are powerful and beautiful and wealthy. You can't change that, but you can take potshots at them. Look at Perez Hilton's early success. Did drawing semen on the faces of young female celebrities with MS Paint really do anything to address economic inequality? Of course not. Did the tabloids' obsession with Britney Spears...
Yeah, I do remember Perez Hilton was kind of weird. I do vaguely remember fucking I'm Alex was, like, trying to, like, make a video saying that Perez Hilton is, like, some kind of a pedophile or something. And it was, like, for some very, very silly shit. Again, the fucking I'm Alex is, like, fucking responsible for giving, like, tons of false allegations. But then he wound up getting his own credible abuse allegations against him, and that's fucking poetic justice if I've ever seen it. Like, somebody who was responsible for giving tons of false allegations, it's very ironic that he went down and, like, his career pretty much absolutely got fucking utterly destroyed when, he had his own set of allegations that were actually fucking, like, credible and real, and he's a legitimately abusive and disgusting piece of shit.
Lindsay Lohan and Paris Hilton really do anything to change society for the better? No. But didn't it just feel so good to see those rich, spoiled sluts brought down a couple pegs? With the internet, we no longer need Perez Hilton or TMZ to bring them down. We get to do it all on our own. Now, snarkers are the elite, the ones with the insider knowledge. They alone have the inside scoop. They alone have rejected the shackles of celebrity culture. They don't mindlessly listen to Taylor Swift's music because they like it. I mean, they still listen to it, but in, like, an ironic way, which totally makes a difference on the charts. There's a perception of punching up here. I mean, Beyonce, Selena Gomez, Taylor Swift, and Kim Kardashian are all wealthy, beautiful.
Hey, we love punching up. It's the best kind of content. It's the most ethical kind of criticism you can give. You're a smaller content creator and you're leveraging criticisms against people above you. Not to say that if somebody is like a smaller content creator than you can never ever criticize them. But if you rely on that and you never like actually criticize people who are bigger content creators than you, it definitely shows like I feel like it displays some level of insecurity, but I don't know. That's just my take.
And successful, while many of their most ardent haters are not. Obsessively hating on them from the safety of a Snark subreddit, surrounded by people who will reward you for being as mean and uncharitable as possible, allows you to feel powerful. A modern-day David taking down Goliath. Goliath would have killed David if David hadn't slain him, though. Is Taylor Swift's new album going to kill you? I mean, The Life of a Showgirl wasn't my favorite, but it's not that bad. I'm not saying that there are no good reasons for critiquing these people, but the obsessive, fan-like engagement is only bringing them more attention and influence, while only making their critics more upset and more disillusioned. In his book,
I also think that, like, it's worth bringing up that, like, a lot of people tend to have a bias towards these people. Like, there's a massive flip side to this whole, like, snark argument where, yes, like, people snark after people because they inherently don't like them, and there's a massive amount of truth in that. Like, again, Ethan Klein example, Caleb Hammer example. The creepy Caleb Hammer subreddit was created by people who already didn't like him. But there is a flip side where if you naturally have a bias towards somebody and you really like a content creator, you'll be a lot more charitable to them. So, like, I remember seeing people fucking criticizing the shit out of Call Me Carson, even though he did absolutely nothing wrong. The worst allegation was he was a 19-year-old talking to a fucking 17-year-old. That was, like, the worst allegation. It really wasn't even that bad, honestly. It was so nothing. Like, literally, most people do not give a singular fuck about that. I'm just letting you know. Like, only, like, fucking social justice warriors are online mad about it. But there were people criticizing him for that and then defending Dream for 17 and 20 online, which is pretty crazy because they inherently just, like, have a bias and like Dream, but they didn't like Call Me Carson. So it's very interesting how the rules bend conveniently for people if they like that content creator. Same for MAGA as well. Like, MAGA was constantly calling gay and trans people fucking groomers of children all the time, but grooming children is now suddenly acceptable when you're best friends with the world's most notorious pedophile for 15 years and you're the president of the United States that you enjoy. You know, and also violence, saying that the left is violent, but violence is okay if a conspiracy theory that is not factually true is suddenly validated. That's just where we're at right now. Like, again, we have gone from, like, fucking legitimate dumb discourse online to now, like, defending legitimate pedophilia. Like, it's crazy where things have gone in the past few years.
Gods, Terry Pratchett wrote, I know about sureness. I remember, before I was blind, I went to Omnia once. And in your citadel, I saw a crowd stoning a man to death in a pit. It was a horrible sight. Oh, I'm not talking about the poor bugger in the pit. I'm talking about the people throwing the stones. They were sure, all right. They were sure it wasn't them in the pit. You could see it in their faces. So glad it wasn't them in the pit that they were throwing just as hard as they could. So, why do people parasocially hate, and why do they engage with stuff they find upsetting? Because doesn't it feel good to be the person throwing the stone for once?
I mean, I guess there is some validity to, just fucking throwing stones when you were bullied your entire life. And I'd like to think that a lot of people that engage in Snark Reddits were probably bullied to some extent, maybe, yeah.
The elephant in the room is that a lot of people who attract this ire have done things that are worthy of criticism. Colleen Ballinger is a quote-unquote comedian who gained success entertaining children with her Miranda Sings character. In 2023, accusations of Ballinger's inappropriate interactions with fans resurfaced, leading to a major cancellation that Ballinger exacerbated after the release of her infamous ukulele apology.
Oh yeah, like, even though I think that this controversy, the narrative behind it was heavily fucking blown out of proportion, I will say, her releasing her fucking ukulele video, what the fuck was she thinking? Like, yeah, this was bad. Like, again, this is easily one of the worst apologies on YouTube of all time. And it will go down in YouTube history probably forever. Like, this is fucking... It was crazy how bad this apology was. Like, I just think, oh, yeah, I'm being accused of very serious things like grooming children, and instead of making a video trying to disprove how that's not true with facts and logic and evidence and, like, all this other stuff, trying my best to defend myself, the best defense I can make up is just being a fucking theater kid, taking out a ukulele and making a song about it. Yeah, because that'll show them. That'll show people that the controversy is not real. This is, like, the most idiotic thing Colleen could have ever done. And it's not even close. Like, I actually think this is the dumbest thing way she could have responded to the situation.
All aboard. During this time, r/Colleen Ballinger Snark was in full swing. Everything about Ballinger's life, from huge things like the appropriateness of her content or her family's similarly inappropriate interactions with children, to small things like her singing or her marriage, were under fire. Confession time. I was actually a lurker on this subreddit in 2023, and I completely understand why it was so addictive. I will again remind you all of what one of my interviewees said. Making fun of people like Colleen Ballinger or Brittany Dawn, who are terrible people, gave me a sense of moral distance. No matter how bad I felt about myself, I knew I would never be that bad. There's also a train wreck aspect to it that's hard to look away from.
Well, yeah, Colleen Ballinger is definitely... She has, like, a large amount of blame for how much of a train wreck her allegations became because of all the fucking ukulele shit that she got herself involved in.
One might call it a toxic gossip train. Two things can be true at the same time. Yes, the criticism of Ballinger is very warranted, and the obsessive hatred of Ballinger serves a psychological need in her critics for moral superiority and distraction. I feel similarly about r/Fundy Snark Uncensored, a subreddit dedicated to criticizing conservative fundamentalist Christian influencers. And by fundamentalists, I'm not just talking about people who go to church. We're talking about people like the Duggar family, people who will take their kids to exorcists instead of the doctor, and who advocate draconian gender roles but don't seem too keen on the other, less convenient parts of Jesus' teachings, like loving thy neighbor or welcoming strangers. Many users of Fundy Snark Uncensored come from fundamentalist backgrounds themselves, and there's a genuine sense of catharsis for people who grew up in purity culture to see it being picked apart. I guess we can also attribute this to a loss of a parasocial relationship, although in this case it would be a loss of a parasocial relationship with God? In an article from other...
Just don't even get me started. Fucking magical apple curse, when the main thing that fucking conservatives love to... A lot of conservative ideas are based off the magical apple curse.
Jones, Sophie Hasten writes, quote, Amanda Waldron is a former evangelical with a master's in social work who now describes herself as a deconstruction coach, helping people wrestling with doubt who want to remain in the Christian faith. She says that after an ex-fundamentalist has moved through the initial shock of their changing faith, humor can be a tool for self-reflection. Generally, there's some sort of pain, and behind the snark, some sort of truth behind it, she says. Snark can be an easy way to maybe move into, okay, what was this experience actually like for me? For one user, meanwhile, Fundy Snark helped them understand that religious trauma was at the root of their mental health struggles, and they changed their therapy to accommodate that. I've been able to make massive progress in my own mental health journey, they told me. This is undeniably powerful stuff. Yet, Hasten's article fails to dive into the negative effects that these subreddits can have on their users. One person I spoke to said, quote, I was constantly exposed to fundy content saying people like me, a lesbian, were dirty, incapable of real love, and destined for hell unless we repented and married men. This content made me angry, which made me engage more, which then caused the algorithm to push even more of it at me. It became a snowball effect that fueled anxiety and dread. Eventually, I deactivated my Reddit account entirely because I couldn't engage with the platform in a healthy way. End quote. And I do have to wonder if this is common for users. Snarking on fundamentalist Christians does inherently mean engaging with their content, even if it's done so with the purpose of mockery. And to a certain extent, I'm sure that that's very effective for helping people deconstruct the beliefs that they grew up with, but like, how many times can we say homophobia bad or misogyny bad until we're just kind of beating a dead horse? I do need to acknowledge...
Well, it depends how many people are engaging in it. Like, if it's just, like, fucking conservatives that, again, a lot of conservatives don't particularly care about people that are within marginalized groups or gay people or whatever, you know, I think it is like important to keep calling it out because it's becoming more and more normalized to take away the rights of these people with fucking Republican politicians trying to pass laws to inhibit them as much as possible.
That just as I said that just because one person engages healthily with Snark doesn't mean that everyone engages with it healthily, the inverse can also be true. Just because one person engages with Snark unhealthily doesn't mean that everyone engages with it unhealthily. And if I want to be completely fair, I do need to acknowledge that there's a huge difference between snarking on an entire genre and snarking on a specific person. One might argue that I snarked on an entire genre in my last video. And there's a huge difference between snarking on NYC influencers because they, like, use too much filler or are fake or something, and snarking on fundamentalist Christians because they advocate for, like, not taking your kid to the doctor or sending children to conversion therapy.
Or raping your kids if they like to abuse the power dynamic, saying, hey, you can be blessed of your sins so long as you do this sexual favor for me. And, like, absolutely, again, like, fucking conservatives talk about, I know I keep sounding like a broken record. Conservatives constantly talk about fucking, like, kids being groomed into LGBTQ quote-unquote ideology, but are totally fine with inflicting kids with religious trauma and grooming them into religion, and that being way more likely to have a power dynamic be abused there than actual children do.
Fundy Snark is interesting to me because, at least in theory, it's going after an entire cultural phenomenon which does affect people who can't consent to it. Like, okay, if you're an adult and you bought Kourtney Kardashian's, like, scammy GLP-1 supplement gummies, like, you are an adult and you did decide on your own that Kourtney Kardashian was a trustworthy person. I can't really make that argument when we're talking about an entire culture that influences the way that people are raised, or the way people vote. I do, however, have to wonder about the efficacy of directing that anger at influencers rather than, say, politicians. Importantly, the fundamentalist Christian right has seen a huge rise in the past couple of years, and I think that making fun of those values can be a very important part of keeping those ideas out of the mainstream. And I think that humor and snark can be a very important part of that. But, like, is snarking in a sequestered Reddit community really helping keep those values out of the mainstream?
I just think snarking has too much of a bad reputation attached to it. Like, there's too many liars, there's too many, like, weird fuckers in snark communities. Like, it has way too much of a bad reputation, to the point where, like, anytime I hear that it's a snark community, you always have to take it with a grain of salt, because so many people will just say how they feel about that person, and they don't, a lot of snark communities don't particularly base anything off of facts, generally.
Is snark really helping to protect our uteruses or our couches from JD Vance?
Not really.
Is it?
No.
Is it?
No.
Is it?
No.
If anything, I feel like Christian fundamentalists can use this to victimize themselves.
They already do victimize the fuck out of themselves. They think that, like, everybody is out to get them, and that, like, again, a lot of, like, MAGA is attached to religion, and MAGA is a victim complex.
Because sometimes they are being victimized. Fundy Fridays is a channel hosted by Jen and James Bryant that makes fun of fundamentalist Christian influencers. Every year, Ms. Bryant used to do a Halloween special focused on one specific family. However, as the years went by, Bryant had to warn people against calling Child Protective Services, eventually stopping the series altogether. In this case, the person she was making these videos about was not particularly famous outside of snark circles, and Bryant felt like at a certain point she was just punching down and wasn't really furthering any valuable discussion.
I feel like a hypocrite. I have always tried to be as ethical as possible, and those lines are completely fucking blurred nowadays. And I am grateful and privileged and blessed and just so thankful for the Genonites, but because of you guys, my platform has just skyrocketed.
I'm curious to know what these fucking, like, Christian influencers did that was, like, so egregious, that was, like, worthy of calling them out. Like, what do they do?
300 some odd thousand and change subscribers, and I don't know what that is in percentages, but it's like astronomically above the number of subscribers and followers that has. I've gotten to be too big to cover her, at least it doesn't sit right with me, myself. And I am just fucking up sick at night, worried that I am a part of the problem. I worry about contributing to bullying. I worry that my snark has gone too far. I worry that I'm putting these kids in danger by covering their mom. And I know, some people are going to say it's not that serious. But, like, it is to me. I like to think that I'm some sort of maybe good role model, but, like, even then, so how can I say I'm a good role model if I'm like cyberbullying a poor Christian woman who, I don't think is like a good person, but, like, am I making like an idol out of her? Am I making it weird? I was okay doing this as long as I was furthering the conversation and all that, but now I feel like I'm just either wasting people's time.
I mean, again, I want to know, like, what this person did that, like, warranted them getting called out. Were they, like, saying that, like, kids should get raped? Like, were they giving, like, Charlie Kirk talking points? Like, saying, hey, I would force my child, my 12-year-old child, I would give more autonomy to the rapist if she was raped by a rapist. I would give more autonomy to the rapist by forcing her to have birth with that child at the age of 12, which there is no argument that can justify that other than an attempt justification from religious talking points. So if there's something like that, that absolutely deserves some level of being called out. I'm curious to know, like, what she did in particular.
Or actually doing harm.
Granted, I've never watched Fundy Fridays.
Did I miss it? Like, did she say it earlier in the video? Did she actually? I don't know if she said it earlier in the video. Did she?
Outside of these couple videos, but it does kind of make you wonder about the efficacy of Snark when even the diametrical opposition to Christian fundamentalism doesn't feel great about snarking. Look, I empathize with the users of Fundy Snark. I really do. I feel like I'm watching a lot of people who grew up in this really toxic culture who are now watching helplessly as that same culture gets promoted to more and more people, and who are taking comfort by bitching about it in order to ease their own discomfort about the fact that they can't really do a whole lot to stop it. Besides voting and calling your representatives. Please continue to vote and call your representatives. Is snarking fun? Yes, of course. But it doesn't really change anyone's minds, and it's not really appearing in front of anyone who wouldn't have already seen it otherwise. For the most part, it's just preaching to the converted, peddling outrage to the outraged. Again, I need to make the cigarette comparison. Outrage feels good. It feels great, even. You get a temporary rush from upvoting a snarky post about someone who's promoting transphobia, but when that rush wears off, trad wife content is still being proliferated across the internet, Roe v. Wade has still been overturned, and J.D. Vance is still one step away from the presidency. Yay. Also, it would be extremely remiss of me not to point out that there are a lot of online communities for ex-fundamentalists that have nothing to do with snark. There's an ex-Jehovah's Witness subreddit, an ex-Mormon subreddit, a homeschool recovery subreddit.
I met an ex-Mormon at a bar. She was cool. Never saw her again after that, though. Sad stuff.
An ex-Christian subreddit, an ex-Muslim subreddit. r/Fundy Snark Uncensored is not the only place where ex-fundamentalists can connect with each other, and acting as though that is the case would be insanely dishonest. These subreddits allow people to connect with each other not at the expense of other people, and not through engagement with content that might be upsetting. I will not be asking my two operative questions at this time. You'll see why.
Okay, that's awfully interesting. We're not going to get the usual, who does this help, who benefits off of this? Oh, no. She's doing a plot twist for the latter half of the... I mean, this video is divided into 9 acts, but for all intents and purposes, I still treat this as like a 3-act structure. There's like groups of 3 acts, like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 is like its own Act 1, Act 4, 5, and 6 is like its own Act 2, and then, of course, Act 7, 8, 9 is its own Act 3.
Look, while I was making this video, I was very conflicted because, in case you couldn't tell, I am very anti-snark, and I don't think that participating is very good for the psyche.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you did give, like, some level of sympathy to them, but I guess, I don't know. I guess maybe, for the most part, there has been, like, a lot of criticism. I guess fair enough. But, like, maybe she's just trying to be, like, nuanced about it. It seems like she is.
However, it's difficult for me to say that all snarking is just petty bullying when we're talking about, say, child abuse. Ruby Frankie is a former family vlogger who was arrested in 2023 for aggravated child abuse. Prior to her arrest, Frankie had run the family channel 8 Passengers, which was objectionable even by family vlogging standards. Frankie's authoritarian, shall we say, style of parenting quickly came under fire, especially after her eldest son revealed he'd been forced to sleep on a beanbag chair for 7 months for normal teenage behavior.
What the fuck is wrong? What? That's so fucking weird. Oh, yeah, you shouldn't sleep properly anymore because of this. Like, listen, if your child is engaging in, like, some teenage behavior and they're doing shit behind your back, obviously, like, some level of punishment is warranted, and you like, obviously some parenting is needed. Like, hey, knock that shit off or whatever, or else you're not going to be able to, like, play or do this or whatever. Like, I'm taking this away from you. Like, some level of entertainment, that's fine. But, like, making them sleep horribly? Like, that's fucking crazy. Like, that's, like, a thing that they... Like, a good sleep and good rest is something that they definitely need, like, going forward. That's a red flag from, like, the parents' perspective. That is, like, an insanely disproportionate punishment.
Their toxic family dynamic led to the creation of r/8 Passenger Snark, which today boasts 68,000 members. So, here we are. The one person in the world who deserves a Snark subreddit.
Probably, yeah. I honestly, like, if she actually legitimately is engaging in what appears to be some level of child abuse, and it was so bad to the point where she was actually charged in a court case for it, I honestly would not fucking doubt that that is, like, legitimately, like, yeah, it's bad. It's pretty bad. Like, I don't know. The Snark Reddit is, the one person I don't feel bad that has a Snark Reddit.
If one group of Snarkers is well-intentioned, it's this one. However, it is important for me to talk about 2 things. First of all, prior to 2023, Snarkers had a particular disdain for Frankie's eldest daughter, Sherry, who they saw as an annoying kiss-up. Sherry Frankie would later talk about this in her memoir, The House of My Mother, recounting a time when she'd wondered why her mother didn't seem to love her. Quote, "My mind drifted to the comments I'd read online about myself. Words of strangers on YouTube who thought they knew me based on carefully edited snippets of my life. Ugh, Sherry is such a kiss-ass. She's always ratting out her siblings and trying to be Ruby's favorite. So smug. Was that why Ruby didn't love me? Because I came across as a suck-up goody two-shoes? Even if it was, I wished that these strangers, who only saw what Ruby wanted them to see, could understand that my obedience was born not out of adoration, but fear. If only they knew the real me, I thought. The me who dreamed of a life far away from this circus. But no. All they saw was Ruby's obedient little puppet dancing on her strings." End quote. So, in at least one case, we can see that one of the children, who everyone claimed to care so much about, internalized everyone's harsh judgments of her to the point where she was wondering whether or not her mother's abuse was her fault.
Yeah, so... Huh. It seems like, yeah, everybody... Wow. Okay. That certainly complicates things.
So that's fun.
I don't know what to say to that. I mean, it's like, I feel like it's the same logic with sexual assault survivors where they blame themselves for getting sexually assaulted. It's the same thing that she's sort of experiencing, like, a similar phenomenon here.
I'm gonna be honest, when I saw the Snark was still active, I had, like, a fleeting thought of, like, are those motherfuckers talking about Sherry? They're not, though. They like her now. Even leaving
Well, now they do.
out the Sherry of it all, I do empathize with this community. Ruby Frankie is a monster.
Yeah, she doesn't seem like a good mother. She genuinely seems like an actual, like, piece of shit mother. Yeah, I agree.
Whose abuse of her children was unconscionable to begin with, but it was allowed to continue through this stupid fucking family vlogging industry. Her initial fame allowed her to escalate her abuse to even more severe levels. I had followed this story since 2020, and I watched in horror as Ruby Frankie became indoctrinated into the cult of Jodi Hildebrand, and then eventually pulled her kids out of school and stopped posting altogether. I was familiar enough with—
So she withheld her children's education and stopped posting? What the fuck? How did the police not catch on to her sooner?
with cases like these to know that parents randomly pulling their kids out of school is never a good sign. And
yeah, no, that's bad. Like, if you're intentionally pulling your kids out of school and, like, halting their education on purpose, that's not a good look. There's something very wrong going on there.
Was genuinely terrified that something awful was happening to them. And I was right! But it's also worth noting that I personally had nothing to do with the discovery of Frankie's crimes or her subsequent incarceration, and neither did any of her snarkers. In my last video, I showed a clip of Madison Harnish comparing the false CPS call on the clients to the call that had been made about Ruby Frankie. Specifically, Harnish said this.
I have seen, through instances
I'm gonna slow down the video for this part.
like Ruby Frankie, when people are escalating their behavior and it's getting more.
Dude, this fucking response video by Cruel World Happy Mind was so bad. Like, in this response video, she was, like, basically pushing, like, she constantly, like, Cruel World Happy Mind has, like, constantly pushed anti-Semitic conspiracy theories about Ethan Klein, saying that he is, like, fucking, he's got, like, wiring in his brain that's, like, in Israeli programming or whatever. She got weirdly anti-Semitic in her video. It was fucking crazy.
And more serious, you are just more likely to gather a group of people who are becoming more concerned for your family, for your children, and for yourself. And
that's not why you made... Yeah, again, but that's not why fucking Cruel World Happy Mind made the video. She made the video because she thought it was going to be a slam dunk piece on Ethan Klein, and it massively backfired.
Your own mental state. I'm not trying to say that in a demeaning way towards Ethan Klein, but it is just the reality of the situation. When you share your life online to millions of people, people are going to look at a pattern of behavior over time, and I think it's just a natural state of being.
Dude, she's such a coward. In this video, she backpedals and folds so much, but then she continues to try to push, like, lies about Ethan Klein. This video is arguably worse than, like, her actual hit piece, in some ways.
Many people, especially if you're just naturally a concerned person.
I had originally had a section in that video where I ranted about how inappropriate I thought it was, but I ended up taking it out because I didn't think that it flowed very well. I am going to talk about it here, though. I found Harnish's reference to Frankie offensive, not only because, for the third time, the Department of Children and Family Services wrote a letter saying that the call about the Kleins had been unfounded, but also because she implied that Frankie's hate community had had anything to do with her incarceration, which was simply not the case. As a matter of fact...
Wow, Cruel World Happy Mind lying. Caught lying again. I didn't even know much about the Ruby Frankie situation, so I never understood that reference people were making. But again, it sounds like Ruby Frankie is like an actual like piece of shit mother.
He had stopped posting altogether for over a year prior to her arrest. To anyone who is unfamiliar with this case, Frankie and Hildebrandt were arrested after Frankie's youngest son broke out of Hildebrandt's house where he was being kept and ran and found a neighbor who he asked for food and water. Frankie's son was severely emaciated and had open wounds and duct tape around his wrists and ankles. When asked about it, he said that it was personal business, but that it was his fault. He was in such horrible condition that the man who called 911 actually broke down crying during the call. Frankie's youngest daughter, who was later found in Hildebrandt's house, was in similar condition. 8 Passengers is a horror story, plain and simple. It is the story of 2 parents openly mistreating their children in front of strangers who could do nothing but look on helplessly until the abuse had finally escalated to a point where severe physical and psychological harm had already been done. And so the viewers could do nothing but discuss it amongst themselves like a fucking book club, which certainly must have felt good, but didn't really help the kids. I genuinely hate this case because I don't want to tell people not to do something without offering an alternative, but I truly don't know what the solution is here. It's easy for me to tell people to just ignore a problematic influencer or a podcaster you don't like. It's a lot harder for me to do that when children are actively being harmed. Like I've been saying, 2 things can be true. Ruby Frankie is a demon, who I certainly won't be crying for if people make fun of her forehead, and none of this ever actually helped the children. When it involves something so serious, snarking can feel like a matter of moral imperative. And while it often targets people who deserve it, it also often targets people who don't. Sydney?
I would say more often than not, it targets people who, don't deserve it, honestly. More often than not, snarking tends to be very disproportionate. Or, maybe that's anecdotal. Maybe the snarking of the disproportionateness of it is louder because I'm just noticing it more. Maybe that's really what it is. I don't know. But, I don't know if that's really what it is. I feel like, looking at all of the snark Reddits that I've seen, I would say in most cases, it's pretty disproportionate to have a whole snark Reddit dedicated to someone, especially when a lot of these snark Reddits are spreading lies about people like Ethan Kleins and Caleb Hammers.
Tal is a TikToker who was diagnosed with cholangiocarcinoma in 2023. Tal's content does not exclusively focus on her illness and sometimes follows her more general life, wherein she appears very chipper, leading some to speculate that she's not actually sick. Now, cancer is a horrible illness that pretty much everybody has personal experience with. If not with themselves, then with a loved one. I completely understand that the idea that someone could be faking something so awful is infuriating. Sydney Tal definitely isn't, though, at least according to her doctor, Ghassan Abu Alpha, who spoke to the New York Times. Quote, "She has cancer. We literally have people who come to us for treatment on their lunchtime from the office and then go back to work. Patients really can live with cancer. Not everybody should be looking as if they are dying. A young patient like Sydney, or at any age really, can keep going and look very good, but it does not undermine that she's still living with a very serious matter." End quote. That didn't discourage her snark, though. Together, they wrote a 28-page document, dear God.
Hey, guys, do you know what 28 divided by 2 is? 14 pages!
That supposedly contained all of the evidence of her duplicity.
Sorry, that was perfect. You gotta admit, that was a perfect time to throw that joke in. You guys have to admit.
Eventually, they were encouraged to complain to Tal's sponsors, and even to the hospital where she was receiving treatment. Once the story received mainstream attention, the snark was shut down. I'm gonna try to be human about this. Yes, it is disgusting to fake cancer, which I do believe the group genuinely thought that she was doing. There have been multiple influencers who have faked cancer, and those people are—
I'm pretty sure Boogie2988 was like one of those people that like faked cancer, and he was like getting funds from like tons of people and scamming his audience, but he wound up putting all those funds into like a bunch of crypto that he lost out on anyways. And he's just like, Boogie like completely fucking destroyed his like entire like credibility and reputation by doing that.
Deplorable, and it is understandable to be skeptical when an influencer claims to have cancer. I understand that from these people's point of view, they were not harassing a cancer patient, they were holding a person who had faked cancer accountable. But when that person's doctor is telling you that this person has cancer and that it's totally possible to appear healthy while undergoing treatment, at what point do we need to acknowledge that we're not holding someone accountable, we're just bullying a cancer patient? So, why do people obsessively parasocially hate? Because their targets are monsters, or at least because they've been made to believe that their targets are monsters. Why do they engage? Because it feels like they're doing a public service and it helps ease their discomfort over their own inefficacy. We couldn't save Ruby Frankie's kids, but we can make fun of her eyebrows. That'll show the child abuser. And who benefits? Not the abused kids. Not the cancer patients. Not anyone who could actually use our help. So, what's my conclusion? I'm a hater-ass bitch, okay?
We all are. That's why we're all engaging in sloppy content. That's, again, low effort, and we're all hater-ass bitches. That's why, it's easy content, you know, like, what can I say? We're in a low-effort period. We're kind of always been— I mean, to be fair, a lot of the content I've done has always been, like, fairly low effort. Even my Twitch streams have been fairly low effort. I would, like, lowercase my entire title in my Twitch streams. I would always often keep them simplistic and thought maybe my personality, maybe how smart I am, maybe that would carry me. And for a little bit, it did. For sure. Like, it definitely, like, it got me places, but it wasn't— I don't know. Oh, yeah, also, how good I was at Dead by Daylight. I was pretty— I'd say I was pretty solid. I haven't played the game since, like, the end of Castlevania, though. It's been fucking forever. Maybe one day I'll return someday. I'll probably— I don't know. I definitely think I would probably play the game at some point down the line if I was interested. I'd probably stick to killer only, though. I'd probably just, like, maybe be exclusively a killer main and just, like, never touch Survivor, just because I don't know, Survivor's a lot more fun when you have people to play with, but if you're just playing by yourself, it's like, whatever. I don't know, man.
I wouldn't be in commentary if I weren't. I love discussion, and that means focusing on the negative sometimes. Even going back to my last video, I did make a genuine effort to try and engage with why I think that these problems in the commentary community exist rather than just pointing them out. I really hope your takeaway from that video wasn't just, those commentary YouTubers are so bad and judgmental. Let's all gather in a circle and point at them and yell at them for being so judgmental. Shun them, shun them, shun. And that level of nuance is just not really allowed in Snark subreddits. And that's why these groups are so dangerous. You want to know the #1 rule in the Sid Tal Snark subreddit? No defending Sid. You are sequestered with people who are thoroughly convinced that this person is evil. When a person does something bad, or in this case, people think that they've done something bad, there's often a perception that they are the physical embodiment of the worst thing that they did. So, in this case, defending Sid Tal was seen as akin to defending faking cancer. Or, for example...
Well, if she was actually faking cancer, then to some degree, like, you are defending something that is indefensible. So, assuming that's true, I think the bigger conversation is that, was it ever, like, even fully, like, proven that it was? Because to my understanding, it doesn't seem like it was, like, actually proven. There were some signs that she was faking cancer, for sure. But, like, there wasn't, like, I don't know if people definitively knew that she was.
Ever since Hassan Piker shocked his dog
Excuse you, it's Parker.
on stream, defending him is seen as the same as defending animal abuse.
I mean, yeah, like, Hassan definitely shocked the dog. I think a bigger part of the Hassan controversy is the fact that Hassan just kept lying about it. He kept being, like, the narrative kept like, people that were defending Hassan were, like, constantly saying, oh, but, like, it wasn't a shock color, it was a vibration color with no shock, or, oh, there is no shock color at all, it wasn't a shock color. Like, the narrative constantly kept shifting over and over and over again, and he just kept lying about it. And also, like, keeping your dog in a corner for, like, 4 or 5 hours as, like, a stream prop, I would say is, like, some form of abuse. And even, like, yanking on the dog's tail. So, yeah, it does, there is enough out there to say that Hassan is shitty to animals, and that's, like, obviously not right. And, like, of course, like, he is, like, some level of an animal abuser. I feel like if Hassan just came out and said, like, yeah, I use a shock color, I do shock my dog, and the setting was too high or whatever, I feel like if he just said that and then never talked about it again, I actually legitimately feel like it would have just, like, moved on. And also, he has to, like, play into the, like, Kaya shock memes, because it became a meme. And the problem is that Hassan kept talking about it, kept responding, and he kept fucking throwing he, like, had a meltdown on stream because he couldn't control the controversy, and then, like, that just, it didn't make the controversy go away whatsoever. He just, like, had a fucking massive meltdown over it. And so, like, that wound up hurting him more than anything.
And while Hassan Piker definitely did shock his dog on...
Oh, he absolutely shocked the dog. Like, you cannot look at this clip and go, oh, yeah, no, he didn't shock the dog. It was not a shock. He absolutely shocked his dog. Like, there's no question.
Stream, in addition to pulling a dog's tail and expressing some real...
Oh, yeah, and every time you bring up the clip of him pulling the dog's tail, they, like, people almost never talk about it. They like, have nothing to say because they know there's nothing defensible about it. Again, this is what I was talking about when people are biased for when it's someone they like. They will actively make, like, weird mental justifications in their head for why Hassan pulling the dog's tail was okay.
Troubling views on animals. I'm gonna be charitable and say that I think that his defenders do so more out of loyalty and self-delusion than out of any genuine support for animal abuse.
That's probably what it is, I would say. It's more than likely. They just do it because they want to justify Hassan being based, I guess. I don't fucking know.
At least I hope so. And these
well, it's certainly a weird mental justification to make for him.
subreddits.
I don't know, like, even Hassan was, like, getting, like, longtime chatters calling him out for it, though. And then, like, Hassan was, like, banning chatters that have been subscribed for, like, 3 or 4 years. It's pretty insane.
Work very hard to keep out dissenting voices. The Faux subreddit, for example, has an automatic feature to ban anyone who tries to comment on one of their posts who's ever interacted with a subreddit that they don't like, meaning that you can post any old lie that you want, and anyone who tries to correct the record gets immediately accused of stan behavior and banned. H3 Snark actually seems to be going through something similar, at least according to a former mod that I spoke to. Quote, I modded for a time and disagreed with the head mod on too many occasions. They were fine with speculation, gossip, and nasty allegations, whereas myself and fellow modders wanted to speak in facts only. We were all let go at once and banned from returning.
Wow, they got purity tested by Hassan's audience. Damn. Crazy stuff.
End quote.
I mean, I think if this is true, like, there is some validity to criticizing Ethan, as I've had my ups and downs with Ethan. I would say in 2016, 2017, 2018, I really liked Ethan Klein. 2019 and 2020 and, like, 2021-ish, like, around that time was when I really did not like Ethan. I didn't like Ethan Klein for years during COVID, because, like, Ethan Klein, like, he just, like, went out of his way to be, like, super fucking unlikable, and I just was, like, not a huge fan of him. But what made me really start to like Ethan Klein again was, again, when he falsely got CPS called on his kids and had 2 human skulls sent to his house. Like, that was, like, what made me realize, oh wow, these people that are criticizing Ethan are actually really fucked up, and that actually made me like Ethan more.
Snark subreddits are not a place of discussion. They are a place of confirmation bias.
Well, it could also, there's probably some level of purity testing that's going on in these spaces too, yeah.
I also couldn't help but notice that participation in these subreddits had an effect on even the most casual of their users. When I asked one of my interviewees if they found that participation in the subreddit had had any effect on their offline life, they responded, quote, "Yes. There was a time when I was really internalizing a lot of what the commenters were saying and really started feeling guilty for liking the things I liked. It really put a lot of stress on me because I like to think that I am a kind and equitable person. I have a strong sense of justice, and I hate the idea that something I do causes direct harm to another person. However, after talking to real people and my therapist, I came to understand that I am allowed to have things that make me happy. I don't have to justify myself to anyone who doesn't know me, and I don't want to be around people who only make me feel bad for enjoying something." End quote. Someone else agreed with this sentiment. Quote, "I can definitely say that I was more cynical and more often expected the worst about people's intentions. After quitting the active use of Snark, my overall mood got better. I thought it was just good fun at first, though sometimes I would be irrationally mad about something due to the Snark's tendency to assume the worst about a person. But now, the Snark pages just make me sad, both for the users and the subjects." End quote. So, if you're a Snarker who's been watching this, and your mind has not been changed and you intend to keep participating, first of all, thank you for hearing me out, and secondly, please just take care of yourself. Pay attention to how these subreddits are making you feel, and if you ever find that it's—
Thank God she didn't say keep yourself safe. That would have been, that would have been quite something.
starting to affect you negatively, it's okay to log off. When it comes to fallen fanitis, on the other hand, I think the answer is honestly just that we need to be more normal about the way that we engage with celebrities. Not just the ones that we dislike, but the ones that we like. Fallen fanitis is absolutely real, and it develops when someone places a celebrity on a pedestal and develops a really intense parasocial relationship with them, to the point where the celebrity doing something that they don't agree with feels like a personal betrayal.
I think me being a content creator, or having, like, many instances of content creation attempts over the years, like, I've been under all kinds of names. Like, I ran the fucking... I ran my Dr. Evil Bad Rex channel. I ran my other Twitch channel. I ran on the Dr. Evil Bad Rex channel was under another name back when I was in middle school, and I did fucking angry German kid videos for a living. I ran that channel as well. Like, after having many instances of content creation, I think I have, like, a better understanding of parasocial relationships and, like, understanding I wouldn't want someone to do that to me. I found it weird when people were weirdly parasocial for me, because I've gotten some parasocial people in my comments and even on my Twitch. Like, I had this, like, one chick who was in my chat constantly, like, making weird sexual comments to me that I was just, like, very weirded out by, and I've had to time her out a couple times. I never fully banned her for it, because, like, obviously I was, like, very charitable, but, it was just fucking weird as shit. It was, like, it got to a point where, yeah, it is weird. I choose, like, I understand it, you know, like, I get people being weird in chat. I totally understand it, and so, like, I try to reflect that same energy that I would want have reflected back at me for my content creation.
I understand that many celebrities encourage this parasocial behavior, but we're all adults, and it's up to us not to engage if we can't do so responsibly. That doesn't mean you can't have any parasocial relationship, or that you need to regard every single celebrity with suspicion. Sometimes I'll say something like, oh, I like this artist, but they are trying to make money at the end of the day, and certain people will take that as, this artist is only trying to make money, And it betrays such a complete inability to engage with celebrities in a normal way. Either you're an angel who doesn't care about money or charts or awards at all, or you're a devil who only cares about those things. And I think it's because these people don't really understand that they can't take everything that a celebrity does personally. Or anything a celebrity does, really. A recurring theme on these subreddits was an air of smugness about having escaped celebrity culture. And I'm very sorry to tell these people that escaping celebrity culture actually just means not personally involving yourself with the lives of people that you don't know to the point where it's able to have this much of an effect on you. I've talked about how the whole Kastner-Johnson drama really led to a big shift in my paradigms, and I think that what's really helped me going forward is that whenever I find a new commentary creator who I really like, I try to identify across their entire channel at least one opinion that I disagree with. I'll give you an example. I'm a really big fan of Jenny Nicholson's videos. She doesn't like the musical Next to Normal. I really like that musical. She doesn't like the movie Joker. I love that movie. She likes the 20...
I think the first Joker movie was very good. I will say, back when I really enjoyed the first Joker movie, I was a little bit more, I guess anti-woke will say. I definitely had a period of my life where I was a little more conservative leaning. I wouldn't say I was, like, far right or anything, but I definitely was a little more biased to conservatives. I want to say in, like, 2019, maybe, when I was, like, a 17-year-old kid, I was definitely a little more biased to conservatives. Not my proudest moment, honestly. Like, not my proudest moment. I wasn't a huge, you know, I think it's just, like, maybe that's why I have, like, a better understanding of how, like, conservatives are able to get to you, is because, like, I've had that happen to me, like, where, like, conservatives will cherry pick certain things and they'll go, oh, the entire party is like this, and so I was of the belief, oh my god, the left, the people that I was siding with are extremely violent or whatever, even though it was mostly stemmed from a lot of cherry picked shit. And I like to think that I'm in a pretty good spot now. Again, like, we're in a time period where one side is just objectively more correct than the other currently, especially with defense of pedophilia in the White House currently being very common.
2015 Cinderella, I don't like that movie. They don't have to be...
But yeah, no, as I was saying, I kind of went off on a total tangent. Yeah, no, the first Joker movie I really enjoyed. The second Joker movie was... I don't know, man. A Joker sequel had a lot of potential, and instead they made it a fucking musical, and it was just, like, utter dog shit. And I just, like, I don't know. It just didn't really resonate with me nearly as much as the first movie. It just felt like a totally different movie entirely.
Big enough to make you unsubscribe, and it's actually preferable that they're not. First of all, I think it promotes a more active way of engaging with the content that you watch if you're not just kind of passively accepting everyone's opinion as, like, the one good opinion that you have to agree with, and if you're instead watching these videos being like, oh, I agree with most of their points, but I disagree with them on points X, Y, and Z. And it can hopefully help you appreciate that just because a person is smart doesn't mean that they have to agree with you about absolutely everything. It also helps because I think that commentary creators, just by virtue of the fact that they're able to frame themselves as being intellectuals, get a lot of respect from their audiences. I'm not saying that this respect is misplaced, but finding even one or two things that you disagree with them about will help remind you that, yes, a lot of commentary video essayists are very well spoken and very smart and very funny, but at the end of the day, they are ultimately just a person with a camera and an opinion. I've given a lot of attention to the way that these subreddits can harm their users, but I don't want to take away from the fact that these subreddits can also be extremely harmful to their targets as well. I've already told you about the clients. A couple months ago, wildlife rehabilitator Michaela Rains ended her own life. Rains' husband insisted that Rains' Snark subreddit and the harassment it proliferated had led to her death. And
I wouldn't fucking doubt it, honestly. Like, what? Like, genuinely, like, again, this whole... Yeah, the Save a Fox channel. Yeah. This whole situation fucking pissed me off, man. Like, Snark Reddits are so fucking... This is what really made me hate Snark Reddits more than anything, is just the fact that, like, there is nothing Michaela Rains did that warranted a Snark Reddit. She was, like, one of the nicest people ever. I don't even think she ever criticized anybody. But there was just a Snark Reddit dedicated to her because she was a little quirky and she was autistic. That's literally it. And people are so fucking weird online.
While I understand that depression and suicidality are complicated and that one cannot possibly blame one single thing for someone committing suicide, I have to assume it didn't help her mental state either. Earlier this year, D'Angelo Wallace returned from a 15-month hiatus and talked about being the
Bro, D'Angelo Wallace always goes on fucking hiatus. Like, every time, like, I don't know, man. Like, right now, the narrative is, like, dominantly conservative. And once the narrative is, like, dominantly left, D'Angelo Wallace comes back to make content again. It's, like, fucking... I guess some level of respect for not being a right-wing grifter. But, like, D'Angelo Wallace, like, constantly fucking takes breaks. He'll, like, upload one video, and then he chooses to, like, dip for a year or two, and then comes back.
Target of online harassment and the effect it had had on him. Most notably, he said that he had actually started to believe the things people were saying about him.
Multiple things can be true. I was still traumatized just because it was like a completely separate, absolutely lesser, you know, thing than is going on in other places where things actually matter, because nothing on YouTube really matters. I still personally and privately dealt with just feeling very traumatized from the reaction to the video I posted, because for a split second I almost believed it. I think that's a really scary thing that people don't talk about online, is if you have hundreds of people saying something, you almost start believing like, oh, I guess I am a terrible person, and I've now revealed that. And all the work that I did was like disappointing. It was just, it ended in disappointment now that people know the truth about me. I got so upset, and I'm upset now still thinking about it.
And if a person is already severely struggling with their mental health, I'm sure that will amplify their already low self-image. Knowing that Reddit is promoting these subreddits, and knowing how much money that Reddit is making off of promoting these subreddits...
That's probably why they refuse to take them down, because I don't really see how, like, any other reason why they would keep Snark Reddits up that, like, just are totally unhinged. And I would say Snark Reddits, like, more often than not, even though there's, like, nuance that Dollhouse discussed in this video, more often than not, Snark Reddits are, I would say, just harmful, more than anything.
I have to ask, how much did Reddit promote Michaela Rain's Snark page?
That is a very good question.
How much money did they make off of promoting Michaela Rain's Snark page?
Another very good question.
And most importantly, how much money did Reddit earn from people harassing Michaela Rains to the point of possibly contributing to her suicide?
All of these are very good questions. I think we should know.
Promoting these subreddits to their users is certainly a smart move, I'll give Reddit that. And Reddit certainly benefited from the popularity of Snark subreddits. Reddit's user base used to be seen as primarily right-leaning men, but now, everyone uses Reddit. Snarks have allowed Reddit...
Was Reddit, right-leaning? Is that actually true? I'm not even entirely sure if that's true? I don't know. Maybe that's true. I've never heard that before.
To distance themselves from the image of a message board for bigots, and is now akin to Instagram or Facebook as a platform that everyone uses. Obviously, it's not just Snark subreddits that have contributed to that. Reddit Reaction YouTube and the growing popularity of Am I the Asshole also helped. But Snark subreddits certainly played their part in changing the perception of Reddit's main demographic. So congratulations, guys! You helped Reddit clean up their image, and you got paid absolutely nothing for it. So, who benefits? Not you. God, these last two videos are heavy. My next video will be about musical theater.
Oh, don't know if I'm interested in that. I guess we'll see. I don't know. We'll play it by ear. Anything going on? It's just a black screen. Oh. Yeah, the video just ends. Okay. Well, that's the end of that segment.